Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we are going to get into the case of Ben Needham, who went missing in 91, a long time ago, over 30 years ago. Many people have asked me to do this case, and they made a sort of complaint. It's like, hey, you've done so much on Madeleine McCann. Madeleine McCann gets all the media attention, and poor Ben Needham has gotten very little in comparison. And hey, you aren't doing anything about him either. Well, touche. That was quite true. And so today I hope to rectify that and really get into what happened to Ben Needham and all the circumstances around the case, and also a comparison to what the publicity was for Ben as opposed to Madeleine McCann. So, all right. Having said that, I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat room. And I'm not going to say hello to everybody again who's coming in because I'm going to get lost here. I know there's too many people coming in now. This is a rare public live as opposed to my patron only lives. I did that because of the content of this video, because the Ben Needham case, so many people want to talk about it that I just decided, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this one as an open live. But I want to say this as I go forward, folks. Please be polite. Please, no politics, no rudeness, no arguments. Stick on topic, please. Don't have massive side conversations that just waste time. Stick on the topic. And if you're here because you have a particular opinion, for example, on the Madeleine McCann case, please do not put a diatribe, comment after comment after comment on what you think happened in the Madeleine McCann case. This is not what it's about, and I will have to block you because it takes up everybody else's space too. So let's focus on what the case is and what I'm talking about. And I'm going to look forward to your comments and your input, especially from Greece, from the UK. I'm going to look forward to that. And I will ask you some questions for sure and see what your responses are. But I can't do that if it's a complete crap show in the chat room. And as I say, I usually do these only for patrons. And let me throw this out right now. Usually my lives, almost all of them, 2 a week. I have the case show like this on the weekend and a hangout during the week. And it is patron only. Why? Because it is a much more peaceful group. We get to know each other's community, and it's $5 a month for being part of that community, and it supports this educational channel. However, once the lives are done, I do make all of them public. So if you don't want to join Patreon, it's okay. You won't be able to come to all the lives, but you get to see all the videos. And so subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and check my playlists, and you'll find a lot of stuff on there that you wonder if I've done, and I have done. So I want you to make sure that you realize that I forgot how many videos I've done now, but it's hundreds of them. So, and I do a case every week. So I may well have done the case you're interested in. And if you're interested in me doing another case, you can always send an email to me at profilerpatbrown@gmail.com or throw it in a comment under one of the videos. I do pay attention as much as I can, although sometimes it gets a little out of control. But so that's that. Let's get started. All right. Ben Needham. All right. So hold on a second. Something's in my eye. It's one of the things about lives, you can't edit. I got like hairs in my eye of some sort. All right. So, oh, that's very nice. Well, this one isn't a patron only, but I'm so glad you're here anyway. And many of my patrons are here, but then I have all these other folks here, and that's great. So, all right, I'm going to let me show you first. I want to show you where I got my information from outside of the internet, outside of Wikipedia, and I'm going to do a tiny bit from Wikipedia just so you know what the case is about, if you don't know anything. And then I have a Guardian article, which is really very thorough, and I'm going to reference that so I can explain a lot of what happened with Ben Needham and the Needham family and everything else that came with it. And then here's where I got the best of my information. All right, so the best of my information, one is this book written by Carrie Needham, came out in 2013. So it was quite a ways through all of the stuff that she dealt with and all of the attempts she made to find her son. And it says here, Ben, missing since 1991, his mother's heartbreaking story of endurance and hope. And let me tell you, of all the books I've ever read coming from a family as to their experiences, this one hit me the strongest. She is very, very blatantly honest. And so many of the feelings she had, I'm just like, I get it. Oh my God. And I know why you're doing that. And I know she attempted suicide 4 times. She had difficulties, even getting through a day of her life. And the way she explains it is so honest and raw that if you really want to understand what family goes through, read this one. Don't read Madeleine. The McCann's book, because you should read that book, but you're going to get a completely different viewpoint on dealing with this kind of thing. And you may wonder why. And I'll get into that in a little bit later when we discuss the differences between the cases. But this book, when she started out, she talked about a lot about her, not so much about the case in the beginning, but about her life and growing up and then getting in a relationship and then getting pregnant. She goes through a lot of that. In the beginning, I thought, why, this is supposed to be about Ben. Why are you talking all about yourself? But the whole thing was really about the buildup to who she was before, and then what happened and who she ended up being after. So it's really good. I totally recommend it. So that was so I read that book, and I'm going to be reading from that book, especially the day of this happening, to get her actual statements about what happened on that day is very fascinating. So hang in for that, because this to me is one of the eye openers in the whole case. The other things that I read, I saw, these are what I saw. Now, this channel, this is the Ben Needham case channel. This guy got very interested in the Ben Needham case, and he did a lot of analyzing and a lot of thinking. And then he did these videos, and he also included on his channel these 2 videos, linked to them. The first video is called The Lost Boy 1997, talks about what happened when Ben went missing and all the different issues. I like this one very, very much. That was my favorite full documentary. It's about an hour long. The one on the left, Somebody Knows, in 2001, is not so much about the exact day that Ben went missing, but about their search for years and years and years trying to find Ben all around the globe, traveling to Greece, traveling to Turkey, traveling to places, trying to find him and questioning people and finding a child that they thought might be Ben, and finding out it wasn't. And it's very interesting. But as a profiler, I found The Lost Boy to be more useful. So this fellow, I have to highly recommend his channel, because I'm using some stuff off of his channel, and I want to make sure that he gets credit for that. He also did this video. It's only a 10-minute video. It's called 3 Key Questions. But I didn't see this video until after I'd watched the other videos. And interesting enough, I had the same 3 key questions. So I think we're on the same page as far as our looking at this crime. And so I have to recommend him, because I think he did a good profiling job. And so you might want to go review all of that later. So let's get to now. Oh, before I start, one more thing. For those of you who want to check out my Madeleine McCann stuff, this is my book, Profile the Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. You can find it any place but Amazon. It's not on Amazon because the McCanns Carter-rucked me, and they threatened Amazon with a libel lawsuit, and Amazon pulled my book 5 weeks after it was published. And so my book is still available at Barnes & Noble and Kobo and Smashwords and Apple, wherever else you can buy the book. But you can also, if you don't want to pay $2.99 for the book in ebook form, you can go to the link I'll provide below, and you can listen to the book. It's a 2-hour video. It's basically audio. I read my whole book, and it's free. So if you want to check out my full analysis, and it's an updated analysis, updated 2024 from when I originally wrote it, which was 2010. So updated with more information, and so that is available to you. Okay, now I think I've covered all the beginning stuff. Let me give you a picture of the people that are involved here, just so you have them in your head. On the left is Carrie Needham. That's the mom of Ben. All right, and then you have her brother Stephen, who is one of her brothers. There's another brother, and he was younger, so he wasn't really. He was along for the ride. Let's put it that way. But Stephen did become involved in a way he wasn't too happy about. And then below is the grandfather of Ben, and also the father of Carrie and her brothers. And then the grandma is on the right. You see her there with Ben. And so the two bottom parents are the two bottom pictures are the parents of Carrie and her two brothers, and the grandparents of Ben. So those are them. All right. Now, let me read you the very, very short version on Wikipedia first, just so for those who have no clue. I'm going to go back over this in detail, but I just want you to have a kind of vague understanding of it. On July 24th, 1991, Ben Needham, who was born on October 29th, 1989, he was 21 months old, so he wasn't even 2 years old. He disappeared on the Greek island of Kos. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget to go through like travel videos and stuff and get all the names correct. So I'm hoping not. So if you're one of my people here from Greece, just tell me right now. Is it Kos or is it Kos? I hate to be saying that completely wrong. Well, here's an interesting question along the way. I'm going to try to answer questions as I go through too. Does the grandmother seem more emotionally expressive than the mother? Yes. But in the book, you'll find that in the book, Carrie is very expressive. I just don't think she does. She's more shy of the camera than her mother is more effusive. So that is true. Let's see. So I pronounce Kos. Okay, good. Somebody said I pronounced it correctly. Sometimes I even check out how to pronounce something, but by the time I do the show, I've already forgotten. So anyway, he was 21-month-old English child who disappeared on the Greek island of Kos. After initial searches failed to locate him, he was believed to have been kidnapped. Despite numerous claims of sightings, his whereabouts remain unknown. Okay, let me stop right here just to give you the three possibilities that I'm going to talk about in the sort of the order that they became an issue. When he disappeared, the local police chief jumped right on the brother and thought maybe he had ridden on the brother's motorcycle and there was an accident and he did something to him and buried his body someplace. And Stephen was 17. He jumped right on that, but he later gave that concept up. The second one was that he was kidnapped, abducted, right off. Somehow somebody pulled up, took him off the road, and he was kidnapped by the gypsies. You know, gypsies seem to be useful in the McCann case too, as far as the blame goes. So the concept was he was kidnapped by gypsies who either were going to sell him, a cute blonde kid, for some money, or take his organs, or take his kidneys or something. So that became the second one, which the family pursued for years and years and years, because, of course, if you want to believe your son is alive, you will pursue the one where he's abducted. That makes sense. Some would say that the McCanns did the same thing. They wanted to believe their daughter was alive, so they pursued the abduction theory. Although I'll say this: the Needhams really pursued it. And if you watch the let's see, which video was it? Let me put it out here again. Where's my picture of it? Here we go. If you look at the Somebody Knows video, you can see them going around the world. They spent an incredible amount of time trying to find Ben. Which you kind of don't see the McCanns doing. They hired some fake private investigators who, that's the deal. Go read my book on that one, or listen to the video. they didn't put out that same kind of energy that I saw the Needhams put out. So there was the fact the child had been kidnapped. The third one came later in October 2012. The South Yorkshire police began to follow a line of inquiry which suggested Ben had been accidentally killed and buried in a mound of rubble by an excavator driver working in a field adjoining the house where he was last seen. Cousins, John Cousins was the lead on that, and he still believes it to this day. That is what he believes happened. And so they did a huge excavation. I'll get into that later, and actually didn't come up with a sufficient link to Ben being there. So that was in 2012, and now it's 2024, and we're still, that was 2016 when they did the extra excavations, and they didn't come up with him. So now it's 2024, and the case is just sitting there. Now, some of you say, what about that Danish guy? There's this Danish guy that recently popped up and said, I'm Ben Needham. They just did the DNA. It's not Ben Needham. So just like, that con artist, Julia, is that her name now? I've forgotten her name. The one that claims she's Madeleine McCann. Or now she's maybe a cousin of Madeleine McCann. Or maybe she, whatever she keeps coming up with. No, the DNA does not prove her to be Madeleine McCann because she's not even British. She's totally Polish, and she looks just like her mummy. Anyway, so that's a sideline on that. But so apparently this Danish fellow also was not Ben Needham. I'm just going to check some of your comments here. I want to point this out. Greece has a huge number of islands. There are so many, so small. It's basically big enough to have a town, but that aren't that inhabited. This is one of the interesting things. His body was never found on Kos. But you're right. The theory was he could have easily been removed from there and be anywhere else on one of the many, many, many Greek islands. As far as the gypsies go, I think they said they're like 300,000 that they were supposedly looking into, but there had not been another incident of a, quote, Western child being kidnapped by gypsies in Greece. So did gypsies kidnap him? Is there any evidence of that? No, there isn't. Is there possible somebody kidnapped him? Yes, but who that would be, there's never been any link. So I will again get into more of that. Okay, so now I want to point out this. The difference between the two sets of parents was clear to see, says Amy. Carrie Needham was absolutely heartbroken, devastated. Of course, there is something else that she has to her advantage. She was working at the time Ben went missing. She is 100% in the clear, could have absolutely zero to do with whatever happened to Ben. The McCanns, on the other hand, neglected their 3 children by leaving them alone in the vacation flat and going out and drinking with their friends out of earshot and eyeshot. And therefore, even if Madeleine were abducted, the finger sort of really points back at the McCanns as like, you're lousy parents. And why would you do that? Why would you neglect your children? And then, of course, the other theory is that Madeleine was over-medicated and took a fall behind the sofa and died. And so when they came back to check on her, or Jerry did, they found his daughter deceased, which case it is their fault. So the finger can point at the McCanns where the finger cannot point at Carrie Needham. Now, that leaves the other 3 of the family, the grandparents and the brother. They were there as well. And so when you get into the actual details of the case, then you have to look at it and say, okay, did he wander off? Was he, and then get run over by, he just wandered into the excavation site and got plowed up because guy couldn't see him? Or did somebody abduct him after he went out, he was outside playing around? Did somebody just see him and grab him? Or did he walk out into the road and somebody grabbed him? Or did it have anything to do with Stephen, the brother, going off on the motorbike? So those are the theories that exist in this case. Okay, so now Next, I want to just tell you just a little bit about where they were living. Okay, this is where he disappeared from. I want to point this out because, no, wait a minute. Forgot my background here. Okay. Let me move to this. All right. So the basic thing that happened, why were they even in Kos? Essentially, Carrie and her parents lived in England, and let me read you a little bit about the background, because I think it's interesting, and it's to help you understand the family and what happened. I think it's useful to at least hear that as well. Hold on here. Let's see. Let me go to the Guardian article, which I think is quite a good article. As soon as I find it. Where did Guardian go? Hold on, guys. All right. Ben the Story is what the thing is called. I want to read you that little bit about the family. All right. And why they were in Kos to begin with. All right. Hold on a second. What the? This is weird. What the heck is going on here? Oh. Hold on. This is where everybody takes a shot when I lose my stuff. What the heck? And there must be two. Where'd it go? This is bizarre. Okay, maybe this is it. Ah, there we go. There were two Guardian ones, and I was like, why doesn't this one have any of the information in it? All right. So this is where you get to relax during my shows. All right. So I want to read you a little about the background. All right. So, it's a very, very long article. All right. Okay. Ben was born in October 1989 when Carrie was 17. She had met his father, Simon Ward, when she was 15 and still at school. I want to point out the guy she was with, Simon, she never actually got married to. And I think the proper adjective or label for Simon would be tosser. Okay. As a great British slang, tosser. And that's what he was. He was not a great boyfriend. He was not a great father. He was somebody she probably shouldn't have got involved with. Let's put it that way. And so they ended up, let's see what happened. They met as teenagers. What? They said they married? I didn't remember they married. Thought they just got engaged, but maybe they got married. Okay, they met as teenagers and married soon afterwards. In the early 1980s, they moved to Chapel St. Leonard's near something I can't pronounce. At first, they lived on the caravan site. So the parents moved around a lot. And the dad, her dad, Eddie, he was rather a gypsy himself. He actually worked with Irish gypsies. So he was a carnival guy, and then he did construction work, and he moved around a lot wherever he might get a place to live along with the work and live in a caravan and some site. And so later on, when you see them going to all the Greek gypsies trying to find their child, they're not anti-gypsy. Just want to point that out. They don't have a bad attitude at all toward the gypsies. They're just hoping that the good gypsies could help them out if there was one bad apple, So Eddie Needham, they came from South Yorkshire. Eddie Needham, a builder by trade, was from Chapeltown near Sheffield. And Christine was from Thorpe Hesley outside of Rotherham. I'm going to butcher all these names. Okay. The grandparents met as teenagers, married soon afterwards, and then he did building. He worked on a building site, collected scrap metal. Christine worked on a chip shop, then ran a cafe. So they were doing okay. Then they bought a house. All right. So when Carrie got old enough, and she met her husband to be. So hold on a second. Let me find out where it is here. Oh, so in 1990, Christine's sister, that's the grandmother, they had their first foreign holiday in Kos. and she fell in love with the island, and they decided to sell everything and move there. And so Carrie was staying in Sheffield, where she had moved in with Simon. She missed her family and hated their dingy flat. Simon worked away from home, and she was often alone. Eventually, she took Ben, who was 18 months old, and said, "Screw you, Simon," and she left and went to Kos. Now, mind you, just to understand this, when she got that location, when she moved in with Simon, she hated everything. It was where she was living. She thought it was depressing and horrible. And then she was pregnant. And then when she had the baby, Simon just vanished immediately and disappeared. And ended up, he was living with another woman. And so she went back to her parents. Later on, they reconnected. But I'm going to guess after they reconnected, things weren't so great. So she decided one day, she says in her book, well, he just disappeared on me one time. I'll just disappear on him. So she went down to Kos with her parents. Now, Simon did follow. He did. He came down to Kos, lived there for a short period of time, got in arguments with people, and went back to England. He left before this happened, although they did question it because he was supposed to have gotten on a ferry and then flown out. And the question was, did he really get on the ferry, or was he really there the day that Ben went missing? And he snuck back and grabbed him. But that never panned out to be true. He had actually left before this happened. So Simon's in the clear. Still a tosser, but he's in the clear as far as doing anything to his son. So now they're down here, and she joined her parents. She liked the place, and Ben was happy. Played in the sand, the beaches everywhere, beautiful weather. They had a caravan. They were not living at the place that he disappeared from. They had a caravan, and then and Carrie ended up living on some bed sit in a bed sit. Later, she got a little apartment in the city. So let me show you. So the place that he disappears out of, this place, what happened was the guy who owned this place, it was a wreck. It didn't have, at that point, it didn't have any windows or doors and stuff. It was open. Everything was open. It needed to be completely refurbished. And so the dad, Eddie, the grandpa dad, Eddie, had that skills, and he brought us, and Stephen came to help. And so the deal was, if they fixed this place up, they could stay there. And so it was a good deal. And so that's where they were the day this all went down badly. But they weren't living there at the time. They were living in the caravan, which was just outside of town. Okay. Let me show you a map, so you can get a little bit of a feeling for where everything is, because the distances to me are extremely important. Let me find it. Okay, here we go. All right, so here we have Greece. Here we have the island of Kos, and you will see if you look on the right side, you will see that little box, and that is where basically the caravan is. And then a little ways away from there is the apartment that Carrie was in. And Carrie's apartment, everybody had a key to it. So Stephen could come over, because she was working for a hotel. So Stephen could come over and go swimming in the hotel pool and eat the food there. And then, the apartment she lived in, Stephen could take a shower there. Any family member could take a shower there. Carrie would watch Ben when she was home there, or she might drop Ben off at the caravan. And that's what she usually did. Now, in this particular day, what happened was, you see that thing, it says 2 miles. Essentially, 2 miles out of town is the farmhouse. And you see the white thing, it says farmhouse where family stayed in 1991. They didn't actually stay there, okay? They were fixing it. But that's where they were that day. And it's 2 miles out of town. Remember, the 2 miles is really important. As far as the digging site goes, I'll get back to that later. That's where John Cousins thinks that Ben walked from the house down to that digging site, wandering about, and that's where he got run over by the excavator. So we'll get back to that. But I want you to see where the house is. It's 2 miles out of town. Now, so it's sort of like this. So on the day that everything goes badly, everything goes wrong. So Christine, the mom, is at the caravan with Ben, and Carrie's working at her job in town, and Christine decides she's going to take Ben. So her husband is working at the house at this place, and the owner's there too, and and Stephen's there, and they're there, and she's going up here. I think it was with the younger son and the baby, right, and Ben. It's a 40-minute walk, so 2 miles, and she's pushing the push cart, okay, what we would call stroller. So anyway, she's got the Ben in there, and it's a lovely day. And when you watch the movies, you see Christine is a nice person. I like the family. I like everybody in this family. Okay, they have some rough times, true, but they seem to truly care about each other and try to help each other out and have a good heart. They love children. They loved animals of all sorts. I trust people who love animals of all sorts. I like them. I like the Needham family, all of them. Okay, so now she's going up the hill, and she's just relaxing. She's going to walk up there, and she gets up here to the house. Okay, and then that's where he goes missing from. I'll give you the short version first, and then I'll go back into, when I read you Carrie's version, you'll see a little bit longer version of what when I go through the different issues of what could have happened. So they're at the house. Now they decide to have a Greek lunch. The doors and the windows are basically not in existence. So, so this is one of these places where a kid just runs around, and they did say he was hyperactive and he would run away from you. So keep that in mind too. That was stated by Eddie, the father, during an interview. In other words, he was a very active kid, and he loved animals and lizards, and he was, it's a little boy. And so he was running around, and I think it was 20 yards from the road. So it's closest to the road, but not on top of the road, but closest to the road. And, but they were all, the area is empty-ish around it. At the time, there were no other houses right there. I will go to the book. Just I wanted to read you enough of the book so you can hear what Carrie says about the location, because this is very, very important. Seriously, did that just disappear? Sorry. I got to find the chapter now. Okay, let's see. It is. Okay. All right. Second. So the man, so anyway, the man, the one that owned this place, by the way, his name, I can't pronounce his name. Michael McCanns, something like that. It was a good sort. He provided a job for the dad and Stephen. And he said Dad could move the caravan up to the site and take advantage of the free water and electricity connections that ran to the dilapidated cottage. And not only would they be getting a wage and free utilities, they wouldn't have to pay rent on the premises. That's a great deal. And they're right next to work. So that was a deal they took. So anyway, the day, she says, these are the events of 24 July, 1991. She says it was 110 degrees. Okay, pay attention to this. I did not see from other sources that it was 110 degrees. It was, sorry, that's not it. I wrote it someplace else. Maybe it's here. Nope, that's not it. Sorry, that's the same one. It was essentially 90 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit. And what is that? What is that centigrade? Like 32 degrees centigrade, something like that. So it was a hot day. And this is important. It's a hot and dry day. It's not raining. It's hot, 90 degrees. So when this child goes missing, he's out in 90-degree temperature. She says 110 degrees, which I don't think is correct. After I left, Mom got Ben washed and changed in the clothes I had brought with him. I pulled out his little shorts, these shorts, brown sandals, and a white shirt with a hint of a green pattern. She decided it would be nice to push Ben up to see his granddad and uncle working at the farmhouse. Heracles, that's the location, was about a 40-minute walk, and most of it was uphill because it was up in the mountains. So, but Mom was fit enough. So maybe it took a little more than, she said, a 40-minute walk, 2 miles, uphill, 40 minutes. Okay, that's pretty good if you're pushing a kid. I'll give her some credit on that. It was a picturesque route, and Mom was in no rush, so they actually took closer to 50 minutes. Okay, also because it's uphill, 50 minutes. He had 2 dinky cars, and he was sitting in his pram, or I guess push car it's called here, and banging them together. After about half an hour, they reached the fork where the road continued one way and a dusty old lane led off in the opposite direction. Mom turned off and struggled with the pushcar on the loose stone surface. Now listen to this very carefully. This is again to this location. All right. This wasn't even a road. It led past a handful of houses at the bottom, a building site where a villa was being constructed from scratch. That's where the theory is it might have been run over by the excavator. And then an odd-looking villa raised above road level, and finally the loose chipped driveway leading off to McCaley's property at the top. The only thing past that was forest. This is extraordinarily important in my determinations. Again, look at this location here. That's the digging site that they're talking about passing. Now, this is all built up now, so you got to take that out of your head. Where that family farmhouse was at the time, what they were fixing, above that, which is to the bottom of the screen, to the bottom of the screen, I believe, there's nothing there but forest at the time. They were like the last house on the hill, as far as I can see. And the digging site was, I think, a little further down the hill because they were building a house there. So she pushed this thing. She went all the way up the hill to what was pretty much the last house on the hill, where it was very gravelly and not a very good place to drive, and ended up at the house. Now, the farmhouse was set about 20 yards from the lane. Okay, 20 yards. Although when I look at it, doesn't look that far, but maybe it was. Okay. With no doors or furniture in the way, he could whiz around the place with his cars while the men worked outside on the guttering. So they were outside working on the gutters of the house, and little Ben was just running around. I don't see any, unlike the McCanns who left their children completely unattended so they could go drinking. They didn't do that. Ben was right there running in and out. And if I've had a 2-year-old before, I mean, if you have a house with, you're outside and the kid's running around in the yard, you're not like panicked over the fact that he would just run off or be kidnapped, generally speaking, especially because they were at the top of the road. Think about this. They were at the top of the road. They would hear anything coming up that way if something was coming up that way. So the most they think he's going to do is run around somewhere outside where they all are. Because, a kid likes to be near people. He likes to, whatever, he's playing with whatever's around. The likelihood of him running off down the street is possible, but not probable. Okay. So he was outside going in and out of the house because it got no doors. The typical response of the laid-back Greeks where children were concerned was, didn't matter whether Ben was raiding their tool bags, pinching their sun cream, or asking for pork from their plates in restaurants. They all said the same thing. It's okay, no problem. They like kids. It was nearly lunchtime anyway, so there wasn't much trouble for Ben to get into. Mom had brought a few things to eat, but Michaelis saw that he thought it was a special occasion, so he sent Stephen out on his motorbike to a shop in the village where he had an account. And so Stephen went to the village and picked up food and brought it back. And then they had this nice Greek lunch. He explained that Mom and Danny is a younger kid, and the 2 Bens had paid a surprise visit. The 2 Bens, Ben is the child. There's also Ben the dog. It gets really confused. I don't know why they named the dog after Ben. I don't know how that worked or who was first, but there were 2 Bens, the child Ben and the dog Ben. That confused me later on because they were trying to put Ben on the airplane. And I'm like, why are they putting Ben on the airplane? They don't even have Ben. And then they were wondering why Ben couldn't sit in the seat. I'm like, because it's a dog. Oh, anyway, that's a sad story too. When they tried to get back into the country with Ben, they put him in quarantine. And it was a sad and horrible story. So they ended up losing the Ben dog too. So anyway, so Stephen got the food and stuff, and he was sped back up to the mountain to the farmhouse. They all sat down on chairs or boxes and had a typical Greek lunch. Ben was eating on the go, so the little child was running around grabbing food off people's plates, and too excited to stay still longer than it took to pick up half a cucumber or a tomato. Then he'd wander off eating them like like an apple popping back for some bread and olives when he ran out. So he's, again, just running around. I don't have a problem with this. I don't think that's neglect. Some people say, oh my God, if you're not watching him on like all the time, it's total neglect. No, it's not. I mean, if you did that with your kids, if they walked out of the room, you can't follow your kids into every room in the house, yet they can go into another room and get in trouble, and kill themselves in another room. They go into another room, put something in their mouth, choke to death. And by the time you get in that room 5 minutes later, the kid's dead. I mean, that happens. It's horrible, but you can't, you can put a leash on your kid, but really? All right. So it was a blissful afternoon. Those who wanted the sun sat in it, and those who didn't had the shade of the trees. It was so peaceful. Earlier in the day, there had been a digger truck transporting rubble from a building renovation at the bottom of the lane to the top. The driver had to pass the farmhouse to dump the hardcore, ready to use, improve the dirt track before driving down again, kick up a trail of dust with its heavy wheels. So in other words, they were trying to improve the road. So a truck might have gone past the house. Let's look at the house. So it might have gone past that house to improve the road, because at the time the road was just total rubbish, basically. So they were trying to pave it. And when that truck passed the house, they would hear it. It was so quiet up and where the farmhouse was, that it would be like dead silence. And if somebody came up that road, they would hear this huge truck coming up there and dumping stuff and going back and pushing up the dust. All right. So he says, and then after the truck went back down, he said, now building work had stopped there for the day, and they were all ready to eat undisturbed. They had stopped what they were doing. They were eating their lunch. The truck had gone already back down the hill. Everything was peaceful and quiet. So they waited and ate some more. All that time, they were royally entertained by a tiny jester. Ben had discovered a water barrel, and after he had skimmed his cars along the surface, he started scooping bowlfuls out to mix potions with dirt and leaves. When he tired of that, the next scoop was tipped straight over his head. I suppose it was pure instinct to try to cool down in that savage heat. Note the savage heat issue. Again, extremely hot. Whether you're going to say it's 90 degrees or 110, I'm going to say whatever. It's hot. She's calling it savage heat. Even so, the look of shock on Ben's face as the water soaked into him made it look like he jumped into a shower of ice. Mom put a stop to it and dried him off. Now, there's a weird thing here. In the video, it seems that there's a point where she's saying that he basically peed himself, and that's why she took the shorts off, because he was, near 2 but didn't have any diapers on. So I don't know which is the truth there, but they were wet. And she decided she took the pants off of him, and apparently he didn't have anything underneath them, because I didn't hear anything about underwear. So when she took those off of him, he was a little naked butt, and she hung them in the tree. Now some people are like, oh, they let him run around with a naked butt. He's under 2 years old. Who gives a crap? Yes, there's nothing weird about that. Little children running around at that age naked is no big deal. So he had a shirt on still and his little sandals, but he didn't have his pants on because they were drying on this tree, which she put up there. Which, if it's, what did she say it was? Vicious. What's the saying about the heat? Savage heat. That is going to dry really quickly hanging on the tree. Okay, so she's hung it on the tree, and she told him not to get anything else ruined because there were no spares. And so, otherwise, if he was throwing mud and crap all over himself, then she'd have to wash everything out. So she's saying, just stop doing that. So now he's wearing a t-shirt, a little buckled sandals, and that's it. The kid didn't care. With that performance over, Ben moved on to his next escapade. That involved jumping on the gravel mounds and taking handfuls of stuff through the house and dumping them on the other side. Every couple minutes, he'd be back. Even when he wasn't in sight, his laughs and imaginary conversations with his tools could still be heard. So the kid was, like the little kids sometimes do. They chit-chat to themselves and they talk. So they could hear him running about. At some point, Dad tells Stephen to go home early. He's like, okay, we're done for the day. I don't know if it's the heat or they just didn't do any more that day, but he said, Stephen, go home. And he was supposed to, I think, pick up something on the way, which we'll hear about. So it says here, Stephen disappeared behind the house where the vehicles were parked. He didn't have to hunt for Ben. Why he doesn't need to hunt for Ben? I don't understand this. Why he would need to hunt for Ben anyway? Because his nephew came trotting over and not to say goodbye. The only thing Ben loved more than his toys was other people and Stephen's motorbike was on the top of it. He'd say, bike, bike. And says, usually Stephen was as weak as the rest of us when it came to turn down a request from his nephew. Ben pretty much had us all wrapped around his little finger half the time, but not today. Stephen had an errand. They're supposed to pick up, I think it's later on, it states some kind of, I don't know, some kind of oil stuff. I don't know. So he wanted to run and get it over with. The quicker he could enjoy his rare few hours off. So he wanted to go do the errand and go relax. He shooed Ben away and made his escape. He said, go back to Granddad, Ben, no rides today. Keep this in mind. He shooed Ben away and made his escape. From the other side of the farmhouse, everyone heard the 50cc engine fire up and the fading volume as Stephen sped away down the lane. It was about 2 minutes after that Mom said, Ben's gone quiet. And they laughed and they said, he can't be up into any good. Let's go check him. He's probably cuddling a stray cat to death. They went out to look for him. Now, so he leaves, and 2 minutes later, they notice that they're not hearing where Ben is. So they go out to try to find him. And so they go looking up and down the road. She walked as far as she thought he could walk and looked down the road and didn't see him and looked both directions, and they couldn't find him. And so she said, told Christine, the grandmother, told Eddie, the grandfather, he's not here. And he goes, what do you mean he's not here? Have you checked the driveway? Have you looked in the fields? And now I did do that. And she was getting nervous and upset for sure. And they then decided, she says, I could hear my dad's voice now. The stupid little idiot, fancy not telling us he's taking Ben for a ride. They figured that at that point, Stephen must have taken him because they couldn't find him anyplace around. So they just thought maybe Stephen did just take him for a ride and didn't tell him. And Ben didn't have a helmet on. So they're saying, what was Stephen thinking? So anyway, they thought that they ran through other ideas, but they had not heard any other vehicles on the street. None of the other landowners had arrived to feed their animals that afternoon. There were no comings and goings at the house opposite with a lane at the driveway. I didn't know there was a house opposite, but anyways. Oh yeah, I'll show you that one in a minute. There is one. Reckless of Stephen though it was, they were all desperate to believe something, and that was the most convincing conclusion, that he must have gone with Stephen. And therefore, they could relax. So she said, so Christine says, I'll take the dog Ben, and the push car back down the hill, and Stephen and Ben will probably be there by now. And so the others went back to work. So there was no sign. So she went to the caravan. And Mom didn't spot she did spot the jerry can full of fuel for the generator. That's what Stephen was supposed to pick up on the way back. Obviously, Stephen had been back, but she assumed that he and Ben had gone to the hotel for a swim. She began to prepare dinner. It's almost 5 o'clock. Ben was last seen at 2:30. Unless he ate at my snack bar, the little fellow will be hungry. She says, I'm going to wring Stephen's neck. He just can't take off with Ben. And so they decided after Dad pulls up, they go over to the flat where they find Stephen in the shower, and they say, where's Ben? And he's like, what are you talking about? Oh, Ben, And he's like, no, what do you mean? No, I don't have him. And he was like, I didn't take him. And then they realized Ben was missing, really missing. And then they went to the police. Okay. So that's the basic story of that moment in time. Okay. I'll grab some of your comments now, and then I'll go to the issues of where did the child go? Oh, I love you, Pat. You keep me company during lonely days. That's good. I know I do. A lot of people like my shows for cleaning and television, and just when you're home alone. I get it because I live alone too. So let me go down to the bottom here. Oh, thank you so much, Dee Dee. I haven't even looked over here, so I always forget because normally I do patron lives only, and there's no sticker thingies. I forget that even with this show because it's open to the public. But thank you so much, Dogs Discussions. That's super kind of you. That is so nice. Wow, I appreciate it. Again, educational channel, so believe me, I appreciate it. But yeah, I have a hard time looking when I'm speaking, so I don't see things popping up. So I'm trying to go to now there's another one here. Oh my goodness. Hilda Norway. Thank you for always making cases make sense. that is always something I hope to do. The reason I want to make them make sense is because that also helps things make sense in your regular life. When people say to me, well, you're doing this for detectives? Yes, I want detectives to watch my videos. And I'm going to start a new channel. So it's just going to be I'm going to actually make it a separate channel called the Pat Brown School of Investigative Criminal Profiling. And I'm going to do more, less jokey stuff, because I like to joke and I like to smile. I'll be more serious. And I'll do shorter videos on specifically criminal profiling, crime scene analysis issues and methodologies. But I'm going to then tell those people who are there, if the detectives come and the criminal justice students come, I want them to come here and watch the cases. I'm not going to put them over there. No, come over here and watch the cases, because you'll see how I analyze. So yes, I want to change the methodologies for detectives. I want them to learn criminal profiling, so they can solve their cases better or find better avenues of investigation, find better suspects. That's what I hope. And they can do it for free, and they can sit in their cruisers and listen to my shows and improve their skills. That's my number one hope, because I've been a criminal profiler for years and worked with detectives, and I've seen the issues that they don't get the training that they need. I'm hoping to provide it for them free of charge on their free time. But I get a lot of people who aren't detectives. But in my opinion, what you learn from analysis and logic applies to your whole entire life. How do you live life? Well, should I trust that person? Should I marry that person? What do I do with these things that are happening around me? So if you can learn from these, then I think it's great all the way around. And if it also just helps you understand how crimes work. And I try to stick with, what does the evidence support? Doesn't mean I'm always right. Just means that this is as a criminal profiler, this is what I see based on the evidence. So I'm not a storyteller. I'm not a person with no skills in the back. I've seen people who don't have skills do shows, and it annoys me, because they will do analysis. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so wrong. Just tell the story and stop analyzing. But I do love analyzing. And I hope that helps you understand both the cases and things in life. So anyway, okay, so let me go to some of your comments before I go to the next thing, which is, this is the basics of what happened. I want to go to the abduction issue and the other issue, and I'll get back to the question of, could Stephen have anything to do with it? All right, so engineer says, once Ben got away, that dig site would have been a magnet for an active kid like him. Now I'll get to that very, very shortly. About whether that is a place that would make sense that they're looking. And that is what the British police now believe. Hi, Victoria, she just rolled in. It's true Ben Needham got hardly any publicity compared to Madeleine McCann. Maybe if his case had more focus, it may well have been solved. I think it has to do with the parental status. Okay, before I go on to the gypsy thing, I do want to bring that up because I think it's more complicated than people think it is. And although definitely Kerry is pissed that the Madeleine McCann, when that started and they got massive amount of money, it's really annoying when your kid is missing and you're not getting that. It says right here, in this here, after Madeleine McCann went missing, around the world, people watched as they were flown from the holiday resort in Praia de Luz in a jet owned by billionaire retailer Sir Philip Green to meet Pope Benedict the 16th in Rome. As wealthy benefactors, Sir Richard Branson among them donated time and money to their cause. They spoke directly to Gordon Brown on the phone. Diplomats supported them. Clarence Mitchell, a former BBC journalist, left his job in the government's Central Office of Information Media Monitoring to run Team McCann. And then there's children's author J.K. Rowling, footballer Wayne Rooney, pop star Simon Cowell, all contributed with this $2.5 million award. But when Ben Needham disappeared from a farmhouse on the Greek Island of Kos in July 1991, while being looked after by his grandparents, the reaction was very different. He was 21 months old, as blonde and as photogenic as Madeleine McCann. And you have to say, he's a cute little boy. My gosh, look at them. Cute. All right. But this was before, and this is where the important part comes. This was before mobile phones, the internet, the instant transmission of news, before Princess Diana's death legitimized the public emotion that accompanies so many catastrophes. And Kerry Needham and Simon Ward, an unmarried couple. I'm trying to figure out when the marriage thing came in. I must have missed that somewhere. It says here an unmarried couple from a Sheffield housing estate. This is the housing estate that Kerry absolutely hated. Didn't have the same appeal as the professional middle-class McCanns. And there is a lot of truth to that in the sense that the McCanns, because they were doctors and they were vacationing in a safe resort, and they were very savvy too about how to push things. And these people didn't, the Needhams weren't so good at that. And so a lot of it all depends. There's so many circumstances involved as to why things didn't go as well for them as far as money goes. So she was pissed off, Carrie, obviously. She said, I was devastated for the McCanns, but it wiped me out to the point where I needed tablets again. She was so taking medication. One day I did 27 interviews, and watching on television took me back living that day again. It made me bitter and angry because the official help that they got was unbelievable. The British ambassador gave a statement at a press conference, British police officers flying over, a visit with the Pope, phone calls from Gordon Brown. She was, so upset about all of this. And the other thing that happened to poor Kerry was that Kerry was not any way involved in what happened to her son. And because she was struggling after her son's disappearance, they called her a slut. They called her, because she tried to kill herself. They said terrible things about her because of that. Hey, if you read her book, you see exactly why. She said it wasn't I wanted to kill myself. I just wanted to stop the pain. I wanted to stop thinking about my missing son. Because every moment, that's all I could think about. I just wanted it to stop. I get that. I entirely 100% get that. So I really think the reason she didn't get as much as did the McCanns is because it was earlier in time without as much internet and without as much 24/7 news and all that other stuff. I think they got lucky in the times. Also, they weren't savvy with the media and their connections. They were. And so if you can play the game better, you win. You win big things, big prizes. And you don't know how to do it. All you're trying to do is find your kid. They didn't have the time or energy to do a lot of the things that the McCanns did. And you can wonder why that is. They thought he was missing. Did they? If you say read my book or listen to my audio book, if they were responsible for what happened to Madeleine McCann, if the parents were responsible, they didn't have to worry about where she was. They knew where she was, and they could put all their efforts into everything else, like publicity. If you're looking for your child, you're so exhausted. You're so, I can't even freaking imagine. I mean, I can because I read Carrie's book, and it is the best book I've ever read as far as what you're going to feel if that happens to you. And she had her parents' support. She did, some people say, well, why didn't she blame her parents? They're the ones that screwed up. They took their eyes off of Ben for supposedly 2 whole minutes. I'm sorry, but I can't blame her parents on that one either. The McCanns were ridiculous. They went drinking far away from their child, leaving them in an apartment that they claimed they didn't lock down, which is a lie in my opinion. But still, that they didn't even lock the apartment up, and they left 3 toddlers in there. Get out of here. You are totally neglectful, 100% neglectful. This child was being watched and had always been watched a lot of times by the grandmother, who seemed to care deeply about him, and the grandfather. And they were devastated after his loss. And the grandmother did feel guilty. She still feels guilty that she took her eyes off him for 2 freaking minutes. But that's ridiculous. It's like being in a store and your kid runs around you're putting something in the cart and you look around, you can't find your kid. Are you a bad mother or father because you looked up on the shelf for a second, your little wild child ran around the thing and somebody snatched him? Is that your fault? That's just ridiculous. So they worked so hard to find this kid, the family. the grandparents and Carrie. Carrie was more of a mess than the grandparents were, but still, they were going through hell, and they didn't have the ability for all that. Now, the other thing to point out is that, yes, the McCanns got a huge amount of money. They eventually got the British police involved. They got John Cousins. They did come down and do the excavations, but they feel like it was never nearly as much as her. And that's true, but I will say this also, that eventually they did get at least that, where I'll tell you, a lot of kids in the UK don't get crap, and neither do they in the US. Those kids go missing, and they're lucky if they get any kind of publicity or attention. So in that sense, they might have even gotten more than most kids. But yes, in comparison, no. So yeah. That's very, very sad. I mean, she just took it was horrible. And Sarah says she thinks it's an accident. Okay, let me go on to the theories. Okay, as far as the first theory, that was the one that they believed for a very long time. So first of all, you had the local. What did the Greek police do a good job in the beginning? No, they didn't. Okay, again, this is one of these things where people just don't necessarily do as good a job as they should. So they first accused Stephen, hey, you went out with your motorcycle. Did you take the kid with you and kill him? And they interrogated him, and he just said, no, I didn't do that. And it fell apart, and he said he didn't do it. And then they moved on to searching for the abduction theory, where he went out somehow on the road. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention this. There was a person who, there was a statement made by the neighbor across the road. Remember that person across the road? Let's see if I can find it. Person across the road. Oh, where's my picture? Okay, everybody take a shot. Looking for my picture of the person across the road. Where is it? What? About there again. The pictures are tiny, so it's really hard to see anything. That's not it. That's where they are, and those are looking. No, can't find it. Okay, so it's gone missing for me. It's gone missing. It is one of the missing ones. But there's a person across the road a woman. I'm trying to see. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay. It's over in another location. All right. So there's a woman across the road. And I'm not quite sure when you say, is this correct picture? And I don't know, this is years later, because you can see the road is paved, and it wasn't at the time. So I don't know when this picture was taken and what was done, but this is the picture that's kind of shown. I just don't know if it's valid. But supposedly a woman saw Stephen go by on his motorbike, and they asked him if Ben was on the back of the motorbike, and she said no. How valid her statement is, I don't have her full statement. That all I hear is that Stephen went by and she said, she didn't see a kid on the back of his motorcycle. Okay, I'll get back to the whole issue of that when we get to the motorcycle stuff. But they're looking for the gypsies now. So the amount of time, if you watch where's my picture of that? This one. Okay. If you watch Somebody Knows on the left, you'll see how much effort they put into trying to find Ben, because there were theories that somebody had gotten him somebody saw him in a taxi, somebody saw him on a ferry, and then over the years there were just tons of people coming in with these tips that he was there and he was there, and the reason they did that was because Ben was blonde. And we're talking about most people in Greece are dark haired, especially the gypsies, right? So over and over again, they were told, this is, I'm like, here, look, this couldn't be a Greek kid. Look at, here's look at everybody else's dark hair. Here's this blondie here, right? Over here's a blonde kid among these people. So they would go, and they were, again, they treated the gypsies nicely. They weren't racist against them or against in any way. They were just hoping that they knew something, and they knew one bad person might have done this. And so they were going all over the place to try to find Ben. When they got there, they'd find out things like that child simply was a blonde-haired kid that was there on the parents would produce the birth certificate and early pictures of the child when he was a baby, and you knew it was not Ben. There was one time when they got there and they said, "Oh, look, this kid looks just like Ben." They get there, and this was, as Carrie writes in her book, they felt so bad because they basically came to the family and said, "We think that could be Ben. Looks just like him." And then the people went, "No," and they took down the diaper area, and they're like, "Oh, it's a girl." And so they like felt really crappy because they like accusing these people of stealing their kid. She said, "I felt horrible about that. You know, they didn't do anything. It was their girl. It was a girl, and it was theirs." And she says, "But I had to make a decision to keep being that kind of person who would accuse people because I wanted to find my son." She's just really super honest. And so then there were kids like, there was a case where there was a super blonde kid, and what happened was somebody left their child. I think one was a pregnant girl got pregnant. She didn't want to take care of the child, so she gave up custody to a gypsy couple. And they were raising the child, and they loved that child, but they didn't steal that child. And there was another case where it was a 100% adoption, and so they went all over the place searching for Ben everywhere that came up with this. This could be Ben because he's a blonde among a bunch of dark-haired people. And 10 years of searching and searching and searching, and they never came up with anything. Now, could somebody get away with kidnapping him and hiding him? Well, all those islands, yeah, I guess it's possible. One of the theories of why he was kidnapped, which is rational, is that because they've never found his body, including the excavation that was done by the British police that came down there and excavated. They didn't find his body there. His body's never been found anywhere. He's never been found anywhere. So since Kos is fairly small, it makes sense that maybe somebody just got him off that island, and he could be anywhere. And they're not looking everywhere. It's impossible to look at every island, every country, every place in the world. So the theory is that's why he's not on Kos, is because he was truly abducted. And the family certainly wants to believe this. They want to believe that Ben is alive. And so Carrie just clung and clung and clung to that theory that he was alive because he would have been kidnapped. However, here is the problem. If you remember what I said about the road, what did they hear before and after? The only time we hear the motorcycle, that's the only sound they hear. Around the time Ben went missing, before he went missing, it was dead silent. After Stephen left with the motorcycle, it's dead silent. Therefore, who kidnapped him and where? So certainly nobody pulled up to the house and grabbed him because they were all sitting. Again, no doors and windows. It's not even like they're in a hermetically sealed house where there's double paned glass where you can't hear crap outside. No, this was a house where if there wasn't even a fully built house, they're having food. They're completely open to the outside. They can see outside. They could see the dust pouring up. They can see cars going by. They can hear. It's not even a smooth paved road. They heard zero. So if they heard zero, nobody abducted Ben off the front porch of this house while he was running around outside. Nobody abducted him there. The only possibility is if he walked down that lane, if he walked out of the house away from them and walked away, where they did go look for him. If he walked away, is it possible that if he walked down the road a ways, that somebody then grabbed him, that they couldn't hear the vehicle? I guess that's possible. And that would be the only way I think that the abduction theory is possible, that he had to literally leave the area. Now, they said he was quiet for 2 minutes. The 2 minutes you have to take with a grain of salt. Is that true or not true? After Stephen left, they heard him leave, and then supposedly 2 minutes of quiet, and they're like, "Where's Ben?" Now, they seem to be pretty good people about watching Ben. I don't think they're bad about that. So I think the 2 minutes is reasonable, although it may have been 3, may have been 4. Would he have walked away from the house and down the road? And by the time they realized he was missing, he was far enough away that somebody could have grabbed him. It's possible. Not overly probable, but possible. So the abduction theory has to stay in the loop as far as the police are concerned, because it could have happened, and then they could have gotten him out of there, and they just don't know where the hell he is. He could have, people making his hair dark instead of blonde, I don't know how long you can keep that up as they grow older, but you could do it when they're young so they wouldn't be recognized. But he's never been found anyplace. But they spent years and years and years, 10 freaking years trying to find out what happened to him. Now, Carrie, when she wrote her book, by the time it came out in 2013, I'm pretty sure it's probably finished by 2012. And that's when the British thing started up, as far as the belief that he was killed in an accident by the guy riding around on the excavator. Now, let me explain that one. So we go to John Cousins. Okay, so this is his theory. And they went down there and really fought to try to find him. They believe that Ben Needham was killed in an accident. All right. Ben from Sheffield was 21 years old when he disappeared on the Greek Island of Kos. An item believed to be in Ben's possession at the time was found during fresh searches. He had 2 of those little cars. Okay. South Yorkshire police said that it was a reasonable line of inquiry because they think Ben was killed accidentally. And that was the most probable cause of his disappearance. I like the word probable. They didn't say absolute, they said probable. They thought it was more probable than anything else. The force said it remains committed to the investigation of Ben's disappearance and stressed the case remained open. So John Cousins, Detective Inspector John Cousins, who was leading the inquiry, said, during the course of the inquiries we have made over the last 19 months, we have closed off a large number of theories about what happened to Ben, which have been open for 20 years. I have a problem with them closing off a number of theories. No, it's only 3 theories, folks. This was one theory. Gypsy stole him. Or he got on the motorcycle with Stephen and fell off or got run over somehow and Stephen hit his body. Those are only 3. There aren't large numbers of theories. What are the other ones, dude? I'm sorry, I don't know what the other ones could possibly be. And they've closed them off. How? How did they close them off? Unless you have proven what happened, you can't close off a theory. That is bad detective stuff. Right now, I will say there are 3 theories. I haven't closed any of those theories off. I may have a belief that one theory is more probable than another, but I don't close the others off until you can prove something. So he shouldn't have said that crap. All right. My team and I know that machinery, including a large digger, was used to clear an area of land on the 24th of July, 1991, behind the farmhouse that was being renovated by the Needhams. It is my professional belief that Ben Needham died as a result of an accident near to the farmhouse in Heracles, where he was last seen playing. Okay, and let's go back to the picture again. The map. I want to show the map picture. All right. In theory, this is what let me read. This is what I thought was a temperature thing before. But in a 21-day search of the land around the building and a second site, 820 yards away, took place in October 2016. After it emerged, a toddler may have been crushed to death by a digger working on the site. All right, looking at the picture. That's the digging site. Now, the amount that the amount of let's go back to this again a second here. 750 meters, 820 yards away. In other words, about a half a mile. Now, this picture, I don't know that it looks like half a mile to me from that farmhouse to the digging site. I'm not sure it looks like half a mile. So I'm not sure if that's not exaggerated. But the point being is the child would have had to leave when they were talking and laughing, and they said 2 minutes went by, he would have had to leave that house and go down. See, okay, also, yeah, see his cousin, see his uncle off, and then go down that road, toddle away, all the way down that road, all the way down that road. It's a long damn way, away from the house, away from everybody who's there, away from the food, away from everything, and the dog, and go. And the dog did not bark, by the way, which is also interesting. The dog didn't bark like anybody was around that shouldn't have been around. The dog didn't bark when Ben went off down this road, supposedly. So now he's going down the road, and ends up way off in this digging site. Somehow he gets, and then ends up getting crushed. So that's the theory. So Now, it says here that this is a story about this. So the fellow, let me find you the actual story about why this isn't here. So essentially, the guy that was the one doing the digging died. And after he died, someone said that he claimed that he ran the kid over and then buried his body. It was a claim. Whether that guy is telling the truth or not, whether the digger, a guy here, ever said that, I don't know if it's true or not. Also, the question is, what condition was he in when he supposedly ran him over? Was he standing up? Was he laying down? Was he already dead, maybe even laying there in the dirt, and you just ran him over and said, oh, crap, and you didn't know if he was alive before he ran him over or not? How do we know any of this stuff? We don't. But they dug the crap out of this site. They did a tremendous amount of work on it. There searches are going on, and here they are. See, they did a lot of freaking work to look for his body. They didn't find his body anyplace. They found it. They supposedly found a piece of a sandal and a truck, which they thought was his, and it was like, oh, they found him. That's it. The blood. There's going to be blood evidence on it. Turned out nothing matched him. There was no forensic evidence that linked to Ben. So that's where it ended. Back then, nothing has happened since 2024. Now, Carrie has come forth and said she believes this is what happened to her son. Why did she say that? You might ask. Well, I'm going to say, after 10 years of searching around the world for a child, thinking he's alive, and always thinking he's out there, I think she'd rather believe that it was just an accidental death and it's over. I think she just wants it to be over so she can move on and have some kind of a life. She did end up going back with that fella she was with, and she had another baby. She had a little girl, and this is the little girl today, grown up. So she got to this point where she just couldn't keep up with the constant agony of trying to find her son. I think she just rather think he was dead. And people say, well, why would you want that? And I'll tell you something. Once you think your child is dead, as horrible as that is, it finalizes things. You don't have to keep wondering. You might have to, if they were murdered, you have to wonder who murdered them. That'll keep you going. But if it's an accidental death and you actually can be proved to be an accidental death, it's horrible and all that, but it's over. And you don't have, there's nothing more to really work on, essentially. And I think Carrie got to the point where that was just a better choice. But that came after she wrote the book. Could this have happened? If the child walked half a mile or whatever, and this guy didn't see him as he ran, and it's good, he's way. If you're up in this thing, you probably may not see a kid. He's not. No kid is supposed to be in the field. I get it that you could run him over. I don't have a problem with this theory. I think it's a little far that the child would have walked, and I don't know if he did run over find the kid, he'd run over a kid. I just don't know if the kid was standing up or laying down, whether he was alive or he was already dead. That may play into the next possible scenario. So, could he have been abducted? Yes, but not probable. Could this have happened? More probable than the abduction theory, in my opinion. Much more probable. But now I got to go to the third theory, which is Stephen and the motorbike. Now I'll get some of your comments and I'll go to Stephen and the motorbike. Okay. This is an interesting question. Maybe his remains were moved and dumped into the sea. It was an island. There's a sea all the way around. There's a claim that no, his body was never in the sea. I don't know whether because his body never washed up, whatever. Who knows? I think the sea is a possibility, but they haven't proven his remains are in the sea. That's all one can say. Let's see what all your thoughts are. Let's see. Caitlin says, little boys generally are wild about trucks. Could he have passed away due to an accident or elements his body been missed? It's a small body. It's always possible his body's been missed, but it's also a small island. And depending on it's a 2-mile area from where he was at to the town, unless somebody took him off into the mountains and buried him, I guess, which is possible. Even this guy could have run him over and said, I can't leave his body here. I'm going to pick him up and take him in the mountains. Is it possible? Yes. And that's why they're interested in that little truck that they had found there. It's like, oh, here's a truck, so it must be his. But they never proved it was his. Family didn't claim it was his, and there was no DNA on it that matched Ben. And then of course you think there was a little bit of supposedly a sandal, and I can't get a good read on that. What do they mean by they found a sandal? Or was it a piece of a sandal? Or it was a piece of leather? I just don't know. And it didn't match anything either. But if you have those two items there, you would think, yeah, that's where it happened. Okay, so they didn't hear any vehicles. That is correct. Not exactly. The exactor handler said he feared that might have happened after the police brought it up. Interesting. Yeah, so maybe he's like, yeah, I could have, maybe I did run him over. Now, interesting. Stephen said the same thing. Well, Stephen said the same thing later. Well, maybe I did do something to him. The police told me I did. And maybe the same thing happened with this guy. The police said I could have run him over. Or maybe I did. So therefore, yeah. Is a show open for non-contributors? No, I kick you right off. I've never had that question before. No, this is open for education. Darren says, why some of these parents try to cover some freaky actions going to such lengths? I can understand it for cases where abuse was involved, but most of the time it seems more like an accident. It depends. With the McCann case, you have to understand that if they gave her Madeleine medication and caused her to die from the medication or from falling from that, when they neglected her, that's not just an accident. That's neglect and manslaughter, and they may lose the two other kids in the process. So that's why people may lie. Certain accidents are not just plain old accidents. If it's a plain old accident, I think you have no problem. It's when you're contributing to that accident to the point that you may go to prison. So that's an issue. Okay, 2-year-olds get tired in the afternoon. Says Allison, excessive heat. He may have hidden somewhere and slept and died. It's possible they didn't find his body. If he had first of all, he had the house to go into. So why he would walk away and then get hot and tired and just go under a tree is not too probable. But if, let's say he did, they would have found him. They would have found him dead on the side of the road, under a tree, dehydrated. But the point is very well taken about the heat. Okay, let me go to the last one here before too much more time goes. Let's go to the issue of the motorcycle and Stephen. And there is a big problem here. Hold on a second. Is this my picture? Oh, yes. All right. When I said that I was very appreciative of this guy's channel, because he also wrote this, the 3 key questions. And I have those same questions. Now, let's see, what are those questions about this possibility that Stephen did take Ben with him? All right. And yeah. All right. So here's the thing. One second, let me pull this up because I'm going to refer to this because it's in the documentary. The reporter asks Stephen if he ever took Ben on the roads on his motorbike. Stephen said he never did, but says Simon, Ben's father, did. The reporter then asked Eddie, the father of Stephen and the grandfather of Ben, if Stephen ever took Ben around on the island on his motorbike. Eddie said that Stephen and Simon both did. Okay, isn't that interesting? So here we have, okay, so wait a minute, I want to put this picture. Hold on a second. Where did my other picture go? All right, this is Stephen. He said, I never actually drove on the roads with him. Now I'm concerned about the actually part. What does that actually mean? All he says, I never drove on the roads with him. But I never actually drove on the roads with him. Are you talking about that you'll drive on roads that aren't actually roads? Like they're more like dirt as opposed to being paved roads? Is that what you're trying to say? So anyway, then this is Eddie Needham. That's Ben's grandfather. Stephen, yeah, his dad, Simon. Stephen and his dad, Simon, used to take him on the bike. All right. This is a picture I was looking for. There he is, Ben's uncle, Stephen Needham. That's why I was trying to find that picture. He says, I never went on the roads with him. He says he did. Now, why is this important? Because they do say he did. And when they heard him leave, and 2 minutes later, they did not hear Ben, the first thing they thought was he's wandering around outside. They already thought Stephen left. So they're looking around outside. And when they didn't find him, then they said they thought Stephen must have taken him. Eddie also said that they knew Stephen would not have taken Ben without telling us. But if you thought Stephen would never have taken him without telling you, then why would you think that Stephen had taken Ben? Automatically you would say Stephen couldn't have taken Ben, therefore Ben is lost out here somewhere. You would absolutely not believe that Stephen took him. But apparently they did believe that Stephen took him. And they said, well, he must have taken him. Now, this is the last picture ever taken of Ben, and happens to be standing on Stephen's motorbike. Now, remember the woman who said she didn't see him on the back of a motorbike? At least this is a sort of vague version I see of that. So the bike goes by, and she says, I didn't see any kid on the back of it. Well, this age doesn't go on the back of a bike. They go on the front. 2-year-old, you don't put the 2-year-old in the back. See this? This is dad probably. Got a kid in the front and a kid in the back. The little kid is up front because they can't hold on very well, and you got to make sure you're holding on to the kid. The one in the back is the older child who can put their arms around you. You don't put a little kid on the back. You put him up here. So if he was going down that road and the woman happened to glance out and see a motorbike going by, she wouldn't necessarily see the child that's in front of Stephen. She would only see that there's no child behind Stephen. So I don't trust that woman's statement that there wasn't a child on that motorbike. So now we have the issue of he loved his motorbike and he had been on the motorbike. So the father says, and why is Stephen saying he was never on his motorbike, except for not actually on any roads? This is a problem. Now it gets more interesting. All right. If you remember the story that I read from the book, after they search for Ben and can't find him, they assume, which, as I learned from the Odd Couple show years ago, assume is you make an ass out of you and me. Assume, never assume. They assume he went with the uncle on the motorbike. They assume that and the reason they had to assume it is in spite of the fact they said he would have told them he was taking him. Obviously, that wasn't that big a deal because they assumed he did go with him. Now, after they figured out that he's probably with him, they stopped looking for Ben in 90-degree heat. They had no proof that Ben went with Stephen. They had no proof except they just believed he did. And if they had no proof, you would do one. There's two things that you would do. One is you wouldn't stop searching for him because he's out in 90-degree heat. He could be hit by a car. He could be dying of thirst. He could be run over by an excavator. You wouldn't just stop searching, but they did. The father went back to work. The grandfather, Eddie, went back to work. And the mother said she would take the pram and the dog and go back down the 2 miles into the village. She's going to spend an hour walking along where she doesn't even know where the heck her grandson is. You know why? Because they believed that Ben was with Stephen. That's what they believed. They finally get to the caravan and find that item there, but no Ben and no Stephen. And then they finally go over to the apartment and find Stephen, but no Ben. And then they realize, oh, something's wrong here. Stephen said he never took Ben. Oh my God. But now 2:30 is when they last saw Ben. Now it's a little confusing here, between 5:30 and 7:30. So either 3 to 5 hours has passed that they haven't been looking for Ben. That's not normal. I know, I believe they did stop looking for Ben because they 100% believed he was with Stephen. I think that's why they stopped. But if Stephen had never had him on a bike before and never been just taken him and done whatever, they never would have believed that. They would have continued searching. But they stopped searching because they thought he was with Stephen. And there had to be a darn good reason for that. Now, it gets more interesting. And this is one of the three questions I also asked with this. I've got to find the guy's name. I feel bad now. Keep saying that guy on the website. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull up his name because now I feel bad. He has a Ben. Oh shoot! Hold on, that's noise. I want to see if his name is here. Maybe his name isn't here. Oh, his name is not here. Maybe that's why I'm never saying it. But now here's the next part. This is the part you haven't heard about yet, and nobody talks about it. And he also says the same thing. This is the most important part of the whole case. And why does nobody talk about it? Because this bothers both of us. Okay, now I've lost my... No, I've lost it. Hold on a second. How could I have lost it? No, hold on. Hold on one second. Hold on one more second. I can't believe this did not come over. Yeah, this is what I do every time. People they think it's funny, but it's frustrating to me when I lose things and they don't come over. Here it is. Is that it? No, it's not it. Oh my God, where did I put it? Hold on. I gotta find it. I'm gonna send. Oh, here it is, and it did not come over. I probably clicked on it incorrectly, so I want to bring it over, and because I really have to have you see this. So hold on one sec while I do the needful in bringing this thing over. So it takes a bit of. You'd be surprised how many things you have to go through, convoluted things you have to go through to get things where they're supposed to be. When you've lost it. Okay, where is it? Come on now. Now it's going to be slow. Hold on. It'll come here in a minute. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's showing up. Okay. Okay, hold on. All right. Hello again. Now I'm going to bring it over. My thing. I can't believe it. This is my most important point, and okay. Okay, I gotta get it. All right. Ta-da! Ta-da! Okay. All right. This is the big thing that is very fascinating to me. See those shorts? Remember Grandma, the shorts got wet one way or the other. Grandma puts them on a tree in this heat. It dries quickly. After Ben went missing, there were three things that were never found after he went missing. The two little trucks he had, the two little metal toy trucks, they never showed up again. They were gone. And the shorts disappeared off the tree. And the family doesn't talk about it. Carrie, in her book, never talks about the missing shorts. And that is not a made up stuff. The shorts went missing, and grandmother Christine in the documentaries says they went missing. They were missing from the tree. And he says here, the missing two toy dinky cars are very significant. I agree. Whoever took the two toy cars and removed Ben's shorts from the tree. Some people said maybe it flew away. No, this is not the kind of tree they fly off of. You see all those other branches around? They're not just going to fly away. They're going to be on the tree. If they did anything, they might fall from the tree. They'll be on the ground. They were never found again. Why would they be disappeared? Now, some people actually think that after Ben goes down the street and gets run over by the excavator came back and took the shorts off the tree. Well, what in the heck would you do that for? First of all, he doesn't want to be seen around the house because there's going to be people all over the house trying to find Ben. He's not going to come back and grab them off the tree, even in the middle of the night. What the hell would be the point? Because if Ben walked away without the pants on, the shorts on, if Ben walked away without the shorts on, the shorts are meaningless to the excavator. He runs over a half-naked kid. What does he care? It doesn't matter whether the shorts on or not. Going back and getting the shorts is ridiculous. But the shorts are missing. And this is what is said here. It is of great concern that little thought has been apparently given over the years to the significance of these missing items of property, especially this one, and how they disappeared at the same time as Ben. Exactly. And that is said to be true, that they went missing at the same time as Ben. Now, if Ben were walking away, he'd have the little cars in his hand. But he's walking away with no shorts on because he didn't have shorts on at the time he disappeared. So the little two cars are there's more explanation for, but the shorts there are not. Now, there's only one reason in my mind why those shorts would not be there. Because someone took them off the tree and put them on Ben. And then Ben went away. Now, there's only one person in my mind who would have any reason to put the shorts. Now, let's assume he was being kidnapped by some gypsies. They see him going down the road. Well, they're just going to grab the little half-naked boy. They can find some other shorts to chuck on him. They don't need these shorts. And if he's running out in the yard, they're not going to grab him and then say, oh, let's go get his shorts. Why? I mean, you're hiding the kid anyway. You can wrap him in something, whatever you're going to do. You're not going to run back and get the shorts and be seen. That makes zero sense. But the one reason you take the shorts is because if you're going to put that little boy on your motorbike, you can't put him on the motorbike when his bare butt is there. So you're going to grab the shorts because they're going to be dry, because this thing's dry quick. And even if they're not dry, who cares? You'll grab those shorts, chuck them on the kid, and let him go on the motorcycle. That is the only reason in my mind I can come up with why the shorts are not on the tree. Now, let's look at a couple other things that were done. He was in the documentary. Supposedly Stephen was eventually hypnotized over a 5-day period, and this is really weird to me. They got a whole crew of people like watching him like this. You see, and I don't know under what circumstances it was done. I don't know. Supposedly the family's hoping that he would remember something. Like as he was going down the road on the motorcycle, he saw, they said there's a white car supposedly that was somewhere down the line, and nobody, please say we know who that belongs to. That was not involved. They're hoping that Ben saw something. He would say something from the 2 miles he was going to town. He would have seen something, which makes zero sense. Do you know why? Well, I take that back. He left first, supposedly, and then the kid disappeared. So if somebody was kidnapping him, if he was walking after after Stephen left, Stephen's never going to see him because he's going to be way too far behind. If he, theoretically could have driven out into the road, and then maybe Ben could have chased him. He could remember that theoretically. But if somebody came and grabbed him afterwards, he'd probably be too far down the road unless that person passed him. In which case, he doesn't probably need hypnotism to remember that a car passed him, or another motorcycle passed him with Ben on it. I don't think he's going to need hypnotism for that. Apparently, he didn't tell the police that he saw anything. So unless the only thing could possibly be that Ben came out and ran after him, and he could remember that theoretically. But this is the whole thing. First of all, I don't know if Stephen was really hypnotized. The claim is that she was a great hypnotist, and therefore she would know if he was hypnotized or not. But that's a little shaky. How much he's going to say under hypnotism, whether he's always going to tell the truth under hypnotism is always a question too. Then there's things where you're supposedly can relate things that aren't true. So it gets a little shaky. But anyway, here's what he said on hypnotism. Supposedly he saw the blue-green shorts on him. And I guess this is by the way, this is a terrible caption. Yeah, and his white person, that's not what it said. Green blue shorts, I think so. He is claiming the last time he saw Ben, he was in blue-green shorts. how could Ben be in blue-green shorts? He was half naked. The shorts were in a tree, and he had bare butt. Why would he say he even saw him in shorts unless he saw him in the shorts? So if you're going to believe this hypno thing at all, then maybe he was actually saying what he saw, which would be the only person who could put the shorts on him would have been him. And then as soon as he put the shorts on, put him on a bike and drove away, that's when the 2 minutes of silence happened, because Stephen left, everything went quiet, and Ben was gone. So were shorts. Now, then there's this claim. This particular sequence was not a true memory. You know? Okay, so he's making that up. How do you know he's making it up? How do you know it's not a true memory? So the whole hypnosis thing, I think, is garbage, in my opinion, and mostly because it's edited to a few little statements, and it supposedly did 5 seconds. I want to see the entire hypnosis thing, 100% of it. Otherwise, it's just the documentary people deciding what's important, what isn't important, and how they're going to state things. They say, "Oh, that's not a real memory. He didn't really see him in the blue-green shorts." Well, because if he saw him in the blue-green shorts, that makes him guilty of taking Ben with him. So they're saying, "Oh, he didn't mean that." And there was a point in the thing where she said, hypnotist said, "Okay, go up above and look down." And he's like this, and he goes, "No, I'm not going to do it." That guy said, "Not doing it." He was angry. And then he did a little bit later. So I don't know how accurate any of this is, but that's not the point. The point is, he didn't, under hypnosis, see anybody else, and he did see blue-green shorts on the board. What is this? Oh, this is what I was just telling you. So what he's saying here is the significance. They've never been found, and this is the key to the case. That the only person who would know what happened to these shorts is the person who was last with him. I can't say that Stephen did put Ben on his motorbike. What I can say is that the last thing the family heard was Stephen leaving with his motorbike, and that's the last they heard of Ben as well. That the shorts disappeared, and the only person that makes sense putting them on the child would be, or taking them off the tree, would be Stephen. There was a lot of time where we don't know where Stephen was or what he was doing. I don't know if the police had a proper statement, like if within 10 minutes he was, or 5 minutes he was in a store buying something. I haven't seen any proof of that at all. I don't know what he was doing in that time before he was found in a shower or seen any place else. If he went swimming in the pool, or like what happened and when did he do whatever. And none of that's been explained. Stephen has suffered from severe depression. He's questioned sometimes whether he was involved. He says the police put these ideas in his head, and he keeps thinking maybe he has something to do with it. But he also thinks, where would I bury the body? I don't have a shovel. And, where would I do that? But the family, in my opinion, believed 100% that Ben was with Stephen, because he had clearly been with Stephen before on the bike. And they left that 3 hours of leaving. If they didn't believe that 100%, they would have been searching for Ben, because they'd absolutely believe he was out there dying of heat exhaustion. Or why would you leave the kid out there? But here's the other really weird thing. To me, I just can't understand this. This is the one thing of the family I fault them for on this. When you thought, you looked around and couldn't find him, and you thought he was with Stephen, it's only 2 freaking miles to the caravan and to the apartment. Why didn't you just drive down there and go check it out to make sure he was there? Why didn't you make sure he was with Stephen? If you thought he was with, you couldn't absolutely be sure, just to make absolutely sure. It would have taken you, it's 2 miles. It would have taken you 5-10 minutes to drive down there and say, "Hey, Stephen, you got Ben?" But they didn't. They didn't do that. They just assumed he was with them and went on about their business. To me, that is the most egregious thing I've heard. And the only explanation I have for that is that they absolutely believed he was with Stephen. And maybe for good reason. Maybe they knew those shorts were gone right then and there and said, I haven't got a clear picture of when they noticed the shorts were missing, but maybe they did notice the shorts are missing right away and knew that the only person who would have taken the shorts off that tree would have been Stephen to put Ben on the bicycle. I mean, on the motorbike. And maybe they just didn't want to believe that Stephen had some kind of accident. I believe 100% Stephen loved his little nephew. I don't think there's any question about that. But if he had a horrible accident and killed him, and thought, "Oh my God, I don't want to be blamed for this. I can't handle this. Look," and he's just freaking out, and found some way to drive his motorcycle off into some place and put his body someplace where he's just never been found. He got hours to do it. He's got a motorbike. He can go all kinds of places. Did he bury him? Did he put him in the sea? I don't know. And how good he could have done that at 17 years old, I don't know either. But when I look at the three things, the three possibilities, to me, the abduction thing is the lowest possibility. Next, we have the possibility that he walked over and fell into the excavation, got run over, and the guy just hid his body someplace. That doesn't explain why those shorts are missing. So to me, the top possibility is he really did go with Stephen on the motorbike. And the family, Stephen can't admit it, and the family doesn't want to think that that's what happened. So they wanted to believe he was alive. So they searched for him all these years. And now that they got the possible excavator story, maybe that's, there's such a no point in blaming Stephen for something that would have been an accident. And they that's where I come down to. Not saying that Stephen did it, but of the three choices, because of the shorts and the time frame that he leaves and the dead silence is right away, why would that be? Why would that be? So now I'll go to your thoughts on this. All right. Okay. That's a good point. Denial has its purposes. It does. It does. And I can't blame them if they thought it was, they'd rather not go with that one. And they convinced themselves that it couldn't have happened. And maybe it didn't, but, Patricia, hi. The fact that Stephen said that he had not let Ben have a ride for the first time is suspicious too. Sounds like distancing. Yeah, and supposedly that just wasn't true, that he'd never been on that bike. Maybe Stephen took him on the bike, and the child fell off and killed him. He was panicked. I would, if that, sorry. Yeah. I mean, again, I think Stephen seemed like he loved his nephew. So I at no point do I think it would have been anything but an accident. But people do cover up accidents when they think they're going to be blamed, and they don't want to live with that. And because everybody's going to hate them. 17-year-old, everybody's going to hate me. They can go and do some extreme things to cover things up. I don't know that he did that, but Stephen has certainly suffered, like all the rest of them, over the years with dealing with the whole thing. And he thinks that the hypnosis exonerated him. I don't know that it did, but if it was just an accident, it was just an accident. But the difference here would be with McCanns. I believe they know what happened. That's what the evidence supports, in my opinion, and therefore the charade they carried on, if I'm correct, was 100% wrong. That they were, if Madeleine McCann was drugged, neglected, and fell off that couch and died, positional asphyxiation or whatever, they were protecting themselves because they didn't want to go to prison. They didn't want their other children taken away from them. So they thought in an instant, had to, Jerry says, I got to protect the family. I got to do something quick. If I just take her out of here and leave her someplace, they'll think she was kidnapped. And in that moment, he made that foolish decision. But then he had to live with it. And then in order to keep the family protected, they played the game that they played. It was very willful knowledge. Starting the fund was the thing that bothered me the most with the McCanns, because they were collecting money from people who believed that they were innocent and that the child had been abducted. And If Madeleine hadn't been abducted and they knew she hadn't been, then that's just 100% fraud. In this particular case, I believe that mother absolutely did not know what happened. The grandparents did not know what happened. And if Stephen knew what happened, he was just a kid trying to hide from the guilt. And maybe the grandparents had an inkling. Maybe even the sister had an inkling. But since there were other options, they went to the other option. So I don't think they were deceptive in any way, where I do think the McCanns were deceptive. I don't think they're the type of family to keep up the search charade for so many years that they knew it was the uncle. I just don't see it. I never said they knew it was the uncle. I'm not sure they believed it could be the uncle. I don't know if they just could go there. But somebody explain it away. I'm looking. If you can profile this, explain the evidence in a way that makes sense to me. That Stephen is lying about. He is lying about never taking Ben on the bike, according to others. He did take Ben on the motorbike. He left, and at the moment he left, that's the last they heard of Ben. 2 minutes is not a long time for Ben to go vanishing after Stephen left, and there's no reason for those shorts not to be in the tree. Those are the things that are problematic, along with a few other, just behaviors and stuff like that. You can explain that away from me. I'm good with that. Again, I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying he's responsible, but I'm just saying of the three choices, he's still where I look for, where I see the evidence pointing to more than others. Let's see. Are you talking about the McCanns? Or are you talking about the Needhams? The McCanns, it wouldn't have been just an accident. It would have been drugging your child and then neglecting them. That turns into manslaughter. That's not that. Now, as far as a teenager who ends up killing is accidentally killing his nephew, he just may not have been able to face his family. And if he's already dead, he's dead. He can't call 911 on that, Oh, wait a minute. Okay. I don't think it was an accident. Stephen took him without asking permission. The question here is, the permission thing is interesting. They said he wouldn't have done it with take the child without asking permission. But apparently they did accept that he took him without permission. So my guess is there had to be some behaviors prior to where they think that his 7-year-old kid would just do stuff. Otherwise, they wouldn't say he would never take him without permission. Therefore, Stephen could not have him. That's what they would think. They would be searching. First of all, they again would make sure that Stephen didn't have him. It's a 10-minute ride in there. Stephen, do you have him? No. We better keep searching. We better call the police right away. But they stopped searching, and they didn't go into town. They must have believed that Stephen had him. And if he didn't ask permission, it must not have been that unique. So, the grandparents didn't do anything to him. Absolutely, 100% no. They didn't harm him in any way. There were other people there. The owner of the house was there having lunch with them. They were there. Their whereabouts were accounted for. They didn't do anything to him. That is true. It could have ended the McCann's career. It would have ended the McCann's career. They may have been in a Portuguese prison or jail. They would have got child neglect. People complained that they didn't even get charged with child neglect. They didn't, mostly because when you lose another child, supposedly abducted, people don't want to be petty and charge you with neglect while you're going through the fact that your child was taken. That's enough of a penalty, they think. But yes, if Gonzalo Amaral had been able to prove and not been overtaken by the British government and everything else, and suffered all that he did, yes, that because they neglected the child And there's no question they neglected Madeleine and her siblings. So one can say that. I don't have to say you can't sue me for libel on that. 100% McCanns, you neglected your children so you could go drinking. And it was appalling. And I don't believe for a minute you didn't lock that apartment down. I believe that flat was locked down. And therefore, that's why I have a problem with anybody going in that, because you locked it down. And originally you said you did lock it down, and then you changed your story, and there's a problem. But yeah, you would have, if they had come in and realized that that's what happened to Madeleine, they probably would have been in prison of manslaughter charges. The children would have gone into somebody else's custody, and they would have lost their jobs. And so to protect themselves and the other two children and their jobs, they may well have said, we can't bring Madeleine back, but we can save the rest of us. So, it may have been a staged pic. What's a staged picture? This? Of course that's staged. That's for the documentary. This is staged for the documentary to say she in the documentary, the grandma walks over and says, this is where I put the shorts on the tree. Yeah, that's staged for the documentary. But she said she put the shorts on the tree and then they were not there. So, yeah. Kelly says, I think you're probably correct. I think you pegged it, Pat. I said I don't have proof. It's just a scenario that the evidence supports more than the other scenarios. And a person can't be proven guilty of doing something until you can prove it. And at this point in time, this 30 years has passed, and I'm pretty sure that this is just going to remain as it is the case, dead in the water, unless his body pops up. And then if his body pops up, we might figure out who done did it. You know what I mean? If Ben's body popped up in the excavator's wall, where he was plastered into a wall to hide him, then I could say, well, the excavator ran him over. And again, that would have been an accident, not anything more than an accident. Still be an accident. If he shows up alive, not the Danish guy, but if he shows up alive one day and it's really him, then he was abducted. Or if he shows up in a location where it's more likely that the brother could have put him, or the brother, so uncle put him, or the uncle confesses, that would be another possible ending. But if none of those things happen, this case will remain as it is. And I personally think because I feel like I can eliminate the abduction quite well, because no other sound was heard before, after, or during that anybody came and got him. I would go with an accident, regardless of where the accident happened and who was involved in the accident. I don't have any negative feelings toward anybody in this, including if Stephen took Ben on the bicycle on this motorbike and just hit a bump and all hell broke loose. I don't know that I could blame him. I mean, if the family allowed him to run around with them on a motorbike, they did. That was a risk they were willing to take. Now, he didn't have a helmet on. I don't know how often did he have a helmet on. Do you see those pictures I just showed you? You see any kids with helmets on? I didn't see any kids with helmets on. So I just don't know whether if you're a teenager and your family allows you to do certain things just because you want to live life, once in a while, unfortunate things happen when you live life. I mean, you could go swimming and all the time it's been fine, but one day there's somehow one of them gets caught up in a wave and drowns. Then you blame everybody for it? Is that, or is it just one of those horrible things that happen? So in this case, I think accident-wise, I think it would just be a horrible thing that happened, either to an excavator guy who didn't realize that he'd run somebody over, or to a teenager who did this before and didn't think anything of it, just thought he's going to run down. Maybe he thought he was going to run down and pick up that item and then run back and then keep going, bring the kid back because he wanted to go for a little ride with him. So he thought he'd take him part way. Maybe something happened. And what he did was he put him in the field where the excavator was. And the guy just ran over him. So It looks like the excavator guy might have felt guilty about it when he didn't. He already just ran over a dead kid. All these things are possible and more probable than the abduction. So I never knew about the shorts. Yeah, then the shorts thing again was Carrie did not talk about the shorts at all in her book, and yet the grandmother talked about it in the documentary. But yes, it's completely left out of almost everything, and that to me is very telling. And maybe it's because it's the one thing that would point to the uncle, and they'd rather not go that direction. So. Tonya says, the short amount of time between Stephen leaving and quiet ensuing very quickly, and the fact they searched immediately, he couldn't have gone far for a wee boy in that short time, and the shorts. That's why they stopped at a certain point. They he couldn't have gone further than this. He's not going to walk that far because only 2 minutes had passed. So how far could a toddler, barely 2, get in 2 minutes? How far? So, you have adults running around looking for him. And he, especially the road part, he's not going to go that far. And again, no sound of any other cars or any other noise on the road, no dogs barking. Yeah, that's why I'm pretty sure they thought Stephen has and stopped the search. I think they were wrong to stop the search. That's the only bone I have to pick with them. I would never have stopped the search. I would have gone straight down to town to make sure Stephen had him. Even if he'd done it before, and even if he should have asked permission, I would make sure I know where Ben is. They didn't make sure they knew where Ben was. That was the only failure, I thought. And I don't know why they did that, except that those shorts weren't there. And they just said, I guess Stephen clearly has them. And then they just went on about their business. And when they got down there and found out Stephen didn't have them, then they were like, oh my God. Then they knew how serious it was. But I believe they believed Stephen had them. Oh, that's totally true. The neglect was there regardless of anything else they did or didn't do. No, I'm not like Doug Carter. Doug Carter, Adelphi. Wasn't a fan of Doug Carter. No, I'm not talking to the real killer. No. I got your joke though. Let's see. Evil says, thanks, Pat. Pat's chat. Pat's supervisor cat. The cat is not here. The feral cat has not arrived today. And all the extra chat folks today. Such a very sad story. And sadly, the uncle does seem the most likely hiding an accident. But again, that's not proven. But it is very interesting. And I do want you to go to the channel that I've linked because when he did the 3 questions that he had, I'm like, whoa, because I was already there. I hadn't read his question before I did that because I watched the main stuff. And then I was like, well, I'm impressed because that's what I think too. Let's see, wait a minute. No, the daughter didn't mention the shorts in the book. The grandmother said he was bare bottom, and Stephen says he remembers the shorts. Exactly. But the weird part is that supposedly during the hypnosis, if it was really hypnosis, Stephen remembered seeing the shorts, not in a tree, but on Stephen, the last sighting he had. I'm sorry, on Ben. The last say. So what was the last sight you had of Ben? He's saying with the green shorts on. And Ben can't reach up in the tree and put the shorts on himself. So somebody had to put the shorts on him. And nobody else claimed to put the shorts on him. They were supposedly still in the tree. The only one who could have done it, theoretically, at that point, was Stephen. So, did she change her story to save her son? She may. Over time, I'm going to say they were probably, if Stephen was involved and they had an inkling that he could be, you love your son and you want to protect that child too. And I've seen a lot of parents I've seen cases where a son brutally murders his sister. I mean, there was a case out in Virginia. That son, I mean, I stabbed his sister to death like 50 times. I can't. It was horrible. They're both teens, and that mother stuck up for that son like you wouldn't believe. And also, I did a show. Now I'm going to blank the Pennsylvania show. And the family came to me because the older son had been accused of killing the younger son. I think the younger son was 11. The older son was like 14. Stabbed God knows how many times, like 50 times. Nasty. They came to me because they wanted me to join the defense and prove that the older son couldn't have done it. And I looked at the evidence. I'm like, that defense, you could drive a Mack truck through that defense. I'm like, sorry, but as far as I can see, the oldest son did it. And they stayed with their belief that the oldest son did not kill the younger son till the day, I think he's now out of prison years later. He was convicted because evidence was overwhelming, but they still say he didn't do it. Because sometimes when you only have 2 kids or whatever, you don't want, and you're down to 1, you don't want to lose the one you got. Especially if you think there's some reason they did it, like they had psychosis or they lost their minds or whatever. A parent can sometimes come up with an excuse. In this case, there were 3 children that they had. They had they had a daughter and 2 sons, and this one grandson. But maybe they just, as a kid, maybe it's a pretty good kid, generally speaking. He did have some issues. I mean, he liked to drink and stuff, and he's 17. So did the mom. She liked to drink. I mean, Carrie liked to drink too, and party and stuff like that. He's 17 years old. He was helping his dad, working. I mean, was he a perfect kid? I don't know that much about him. He looks like he struggled a lot in life now, but then so was the whole family. So did she have an inkling, but just said, I can't go there. I just can't go there, guys. First of all, I want to believe my grandson's alive, and secondly, I don't want to believe that my son had anything to do with it, and that he would try to hide this from us. I don't know. I just don't know. But that was the grandfather was crushed. You can see him all through the documentary. The grandfather's just crushed, and the grandmother, she seemed to hold up better. But I don't know what they knew, and I don't know whether they knew but couldn't accept, or whether they wanted to hide it. I have no idea. Or one of them did, and the other one didn't know, or Stephen wasn't involved, and they had no reason to suspect him. But yeah, yeah, that's not true. Sorry, Rocco. I'm not going there with your comment because it's just simply not true. Patricia says, if the uncle accidentally killed him, it was a terrible tragedy. But if he has let the sister go through life not knowing, then he is craven and cruel. There's an interesting issue there. Yeah, if you know, and you're letting your sister hope and hope and hope and hope for years, yeah, that's kind of cruel. But sometimes, I'll say this: sometimes people, when it becomes between themselves and the other person, they'll pick themselves, and that's sometimes true. I don't know his character, and I don't know what would drive him to do what he did. If this was an accident and he just hit it, I don't know. But then again, maybe they're right. Maybe he didn't do it, but I can't explain that away. I'll say the evidence it happened also closely. The motorcycle leaving, and then the silence, and this missing, and the family believing that he was with him and not checking. All those things together, just, it's hard to point in another direction. But yeah, would it be cruel to continue doing that? Yes, but sometimes also another thing is, sometimes once somebody's going down a road, they can't get themselves off of it. They've made their choice, and they just stick with it. But of course, you can suffer from all kinds of severe depression and guilt and all kinds of stuff. But it's surprising what people go to the grave with. It really is. And how, yeah, it's hard to say. I have never heard that. She saw Ben after seeing the uncle. She saw Ben where? If she saw Ben after, so there was a question about the witness statement. If she saw Ben after the uncle left, and she didn't say, if she didn't say Ben was running down the road, then she would still be seeing Ben over at the house. She saw Ben leave, and then she looks over and sees him there. He's still going to be there. I mean, where's the 2 minutes? Where is he going to disappear in 2 minutes? She glances over and she sees him, but she doesn't see him leave that area. He's still sitting there. It's not very convincing. And then we have this, and I can't get past this. This is when they talk about one of those red flag things. This is it. If that was still on the tree, I would have maybe a whole different thought. If that was still on the tree, I'd say, is his uncle really going to have a kid with no shorts on running around with him? Probably he's going to put the shorts on. I mean, he could, theoretically, if he's just running around the yard, I could see him not putting the shorts on. But that he would go down the road and go to a store with, he's still a 2-year-old, so you could still have him half naked. It's not a big, huge deal. Maybe a teenager would do that, but then where the heck are the shorts? So I don't know. The witness statement, I haven't seen anything about the witness statement that I can't find a decent copy on that. It's just, I want to click on this. Oh, Loretta, why can't I click on it? Oh, Loretta sends over $9.99. Thank you, Loretta. Able to send a super chat today. Missed the show with earlier time, but we'll watch later. Oh, thank you, Loretta. It's very nice of you. They always are available later, so that's good. This is one of the problems we have with documentaries. You can say anything in a documentary and not necessarily have it be backed by facts. I did not see anything in the sister's book that talked about the neighbor at all. So now come to think of it, hold on, Kindle starts over again. Oh, look at that. I didn't see anything about that at all. I find that rather fascinating. Let me look back again. All right, let me run down to, okay, we've lost him. Okay. Trying to see whether there's, let me go witness. I'm gonna put in a search here. I'll put in witness. I don't remember her mentioning that at all. You'd think she would definitely bring that crap up. Nope. Okay. No witness mentioned there. Neighbor. Nothing. So it's not even in Carrie's book. Why the heck not? So when you're watching a documentary, the problem is sometimes when they throw something out and it's kind of vague, you don't know whether it's actually true. Unless you see it, you're correct. Unless you see the entire witness statement to see whether, first of all, the police were manipulating and see what situation she was in when she saw these things. What was her angle? Was she out for 2 seconds? Was she falling asleep? Is she a liar? What are all these situations? But I don't see anything in her book that even mentions the neighbor. And that would be extraordinarily important. If you want to protect your brother, you should definitely say, my brother left, and after the neighbor saw him going all the way down the street, she saw Ben sitting there. Because then there would be zero question from the police at all. Now, the police supposedly eventually said he didn't do it or gave up on that concept. But actually, the police then said, we just don't know. So, now I'm trying to figure out if there's any, I'm just going to do a Google search on that. Let's see, Ben. Witness statement. Witness I'm not getting anything here at all. Not even in saw Ben motorcycle. I'm trying to come up with anything that would. Hmm. Nope. It's not in the articles either. Which you'd think that would be a biggie. You know what I mean? If there's a witness that says he couldn't be involved with it, I'm just looking back through the Guardian article now. Um, let's see. Yeah, there's a tree. They hung up the wet shorts, and then now it says 2:30. Stephen left on his moped to go for a swim, a beer, and a shower at Carrie's flat. Ben wanted to go with him. He'd been on the bike before, and now he wanted to go with his uncle. A few minutes after Stephen left, Christine registered that Ben had gone quiet. Now it's a few minutes, an hour up to 3, and went outside. He was nowhere to be seen. They searched up and down the lane. When they couldn't find him, they assumed he must have gone with Stephen. It was a logical explanation. They thought Stephen had taken Ben for a ride and would bring him back. About an hour later, thinking Stephen had gone to the caravan instead of coming back to the farmhouse or gone to Carrie's flat, Christine walked back to Paradisi while Eddie, Danny, and the other guy stayed working on the roof. In the early evening, Eddie went to the caravan expecting to find Ben with Christine. He wasn't, so Eddie went to Carrie's flat thinking he'd be there, and there he found him. Stephen. Stephen took Christine to the police on his bike and joined his father. I'm just trying to see whether there's any information here about a witness seeing him. I'm not finding it. If you find it, by the way, if you find anything about that, please put a link in the comments, send it to profilerpatbrown@gmail.com. A link to, I can't remember if this, I remember thinking about the witness in the documentary. I just don't remember where it was. I don't remember what she claimed she saw, what they claimed she said, whether it was vague. I can't remember it. So put a link and I'll comment back on that. If you find something anyplace else, send it along. I'd be interesting. Kelly says the theory about Stephen is the one that makes most sense based on what we know. And again, if I could see the actual original, the details about what Stephen actually did, where he was, because he did buy that, supposedly that oil stuff. I'd like to know where he bought that and when. In other words, if he left the house at 2:30 and an hour and a half went by before he bought that oil stuff, which was on the way to Paradisi, then you'd wonder where he was for an hour and a half. Because it's a short ride to 1 mile. So where did he go? But I don't know I don't know when he bought that, where he bought that. Did he buy it in Paradisi after? Again, when did he arrive? Because that would be a great point. What time did he buy that thing? Because he supposedly bought that. And did he buy it before? But then if he bought it before and somebody said, well, he left at 2:30 and at 2:45, he was in the store buying that item and he didn't have the child with him. Well, then you'd kind of wonder, well, in 15 minutes, would he have time to have an accident, hide the child, and then go buy something in the store? Would he have time to do that? But we don't have any information about what his movements were from the time he left at 2:30 till the time he was found showering. What happened to him in all those hours? Where was he? So I'm a little confused over that. Well, of course there is. You can always re-interview people if they are willing to be re-interviewed. Of course you can. But they've made that right now. The British police have decided that it was an excavator guy, and that's their theory. And it's been now over almost 10 years, and they're sticking with it. So that's that. Yes, the owner of the property was working on the roof with them, so he was there. That's why it's very useful, because the parents were there with somebody else, so they do have a witness outside of the family to say they ate the food and then heard the sound of the motorcycle, and then 2 minutes went by and they looked for Ben and he was gone. So we have that information. Well, say Greece actually changed their laws concerning helmets, but nobody cares. We always, especially on the street, little streets. Yeah, I mean, a lot of countries that have families riding on, 3 to 4 on a bike, there's no helmets. um, yeah, absolutely not. That's nonsense. Get out of here. Come on now. So that's unnecessary and ridiculous. It's his little, it's his little, it's his little nephew. Little boys run around naked. People don't get sexually excited just because they see a little child naked all the time. I mean, and that's unnecessary to jump to some kind of conclusion like that. I mean, yeah, no, no. And that's one of the problems when you're not a profiler sometimes. And I see people do this. They will go to any conclusion and go into, oh, it's a child pedophile ring when there's no proof of a child pedophile ring. Madeleine McCann was taken in a child pedophile ring. No, she wasn't. Absolutely not. Why? Because there's no good reason to kidnap a child from a couple of vacationing Britishers who they're on vacation with the child, and you're going to start an international incident. You can get a whole bunch of kids cheaper, easier. You can kidnap a kid from a drug addict, a local kid from a drug addict, and that's not going to get a big investigation. You don't kidnap a kid and start an international incident. You don't need the kid that badly. There's too many other kids you can buy off of the parents. So this concept, every time somebody disappears, oh, they've been kidnapped into a big pedophile ring. No, there are pedophile rings, but this is not the way things operate. And there's too much garbage out on the internet, which pushes these ludicrous theories. And it's just no. No, and no, the Ramsey family, neither. Okay. The Ramsey family is not involved in a pedophile ring. Stop it. Never been a proof of that. Do I think the Ramseys know more? And do I believe it was an intruder? No. But I don't see any evidence there was any pedophile ring there either. So stop with stuff that has zero links to anything like that. Okay, it lies where the family owns the farm of the digger. Why? The family has major authority in Kos. Well, it would be an accident. And there wouldn't be. Stephen was 100% cleared of any involvement. How? See, I hear this stuff. People get cleared all the time because they move on to other suspects or other theories. How did he get cleared? And what bothers me is if it were my brother, my son, if I were him, I'd want the information out there that cleared me. I'd want people to know what the hell it was. I see zero in the book. I see zero in the documentaries that tell me why he would be cleared. 100% cleared, you say. Send me a link. How? And I'm willing to have him cleared, mind you. I don't have a problem with the theory about the excavator, except I don't know how he got that far. It's a long way in those 2 minutes for him to get that far down the road and off. I'd find that unlikely. But do I believe he could have been run over by an excavator and the guy freaked out and didn't report it? Yes, I can believe that. That's why I'm saying it's a better theory than the abduction theory. But it doesn't explain the shorts. It doesn't explain the family believing he was with Stephen and not even checking. Doesn't explain that. And so if you got some proof that can totally exonerate Stephen, I'm good with that. I'm not trying to say Stephen absolutely did it. I'm just saying, according to the evidence that I know that has been presented in 2 documentaries and this book, I'm not able to say that it's a theory that can't be considered. Let's put it that way. So, let's see. Oh, what would you call this kind of behavior? You mean when the parent protects one over the other, like the Cain and Abel story? Yes. Actually, I called the Pennsylvania case the Cain and Abel story for a good reason. The older brother was jealous of the younger brother, terribly jealous. The younger brother was a golden boy. The older one was kind of a weirdo, kind of a little odd fella, not successful in sports. And then his younger brother came along, and he was the one that the parents were so proud of, especially the dad. And he became jealous of his younger brother. So yes, he was Cain and his younger brother was Abel. Yeah, that's for sure. And that is very correct. He's not necessarily mature. 17? Yeah, definitely not mature. Sometimes not ever, no, but definitely 17, not ever. Um, um, I that the I will be sorry. I don't think I linked that yet because there's a live show. I forgot to link it yet. It's going to be on the guy's channel that I showed you, um, and I will link everything below. And I forgot to do it before the show. I don't know why. No, I just did. The Ben Needham case is if you just put in the Ben Needham case, that's the channel, the Ben Needham case, and he's got both documentaries and his other commentary on there. I will link everything below as soon as I finish the show. I forgot. I forgot. Um, uh, let's see. That's an interesting point. He could have, some warped way, convinced himself that her having hope is good, and that's possible. Rather than thinking her son is dead, maybe it's better if she thinks he's alive. Yeah, that's possible. He was upset. Why would he not be upset? Well, he would be. And he seemed to be very upset. I mean, the whole family is upset because Ben got missing. So everybody's distraught anyway. But if he actually killed him accidentally in an accident, he was definitely distraught. He was distraught. After police questioned him, of course, he was very distraught that they accused him of that. But he also said he had visions of himself being involved and he had suffered depression. Whether it's because the police planted ideas in his head and he lost his mind or he's doing drugs, I don't know. Or whether he was involved and those images wouldn't go out of his head and the guilt got to him. I don't know. Whether he was involved or he wasn't, I cannot tell you. I could just tell you it's a little weird. That's a good point. If the uncle did take him, that's a good point, Barbara. And there was an accident. It must have been very close to the house. Otherwise, surely someone would have seen a small boy on a bicycle. Yeah, I would say that whole area was fairly empty. So again, this is where you can't make an absolute proper profile unless you have access to all the information. 2 miles of empty road. Very few, there were some houses there, but very few. The question is, did anybody see, not the woman that saw him leaving, she thought there was no child, but again, she looked like she saw him from the back, which to me, I don't know. Again, I don't have a clear view of if she saw him coming out of the driveway facing her and she saw no child. And then he turned and she saw no child behind him. She could say there was no child in front or behind him because I saw him from both directions. I don't have that information and it's not clear. And I don't trust documentary makers. Again, sometimes if they want to promote a certain theory, they will leave out evidence and proper witness statements so that they can promote their agenda, whatever it might be. And so the question is, was he seen? Where was he seen next? He wasn't actually seen leaving the house. Nobody there saw him leave. So the family members and the frat guy who owned the place did not see Stephen leave the house on his motorcycle. They only heard him. So they don't know if Ben was on the motorcycle or not. Then we have the supposed statement of that one witness. Then again, when was the next time he was seen? And that's very important. Yeah, was he seen a mile down the road with no kid on his bicycle 10 minutes, 5 minutes later? Well, then he didn't take the kid. That would be very obvious then. Did he arrive at the store without a kid and it was only 7 minutes? It wouldn't have time to do anything or deal with anything. But again, I don't know because for some reason, none of that is documented. He leaves the house. We don't hear anything about, basically, outside of that one supposedly across the street lady. We don't hear about anything until he's in that shower. Outside of anything the family says. Where's all that information? I don't know. It's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Let's see. Only someone who cared about Ben would put the shorts on. That would be reasonable, unless the shorts were either put on Ben, they blew away, which doesn't seem to be the case, or somebody came back and stole them. Who does that? Why would anybody do that? That's the problems I have with that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Psychoanalytic studies. I like it. I am from Greece. The case has haunted us for a very long time and has received extensive media coverage as well as live shows dedicated to states asking for tips from the public. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that doesn't really go away, and probably goes away less for Greece than it does for the UK, because it happened there. Well, that's an interesting, that's a good point. Probably the seat of the motorcycle was too hot for Ben to ride on it without pants. I'm not sure how much of that. I don't know. I couldn't get a picture of the motorcycle, so I'm not sure whether he'd be sitting more on Stephen's lap if he were on the motorcycle, or whether he'd be on the little front part of the seat, and whether, yes, it would be too hot. It's a good point though, because if he has to straddle that, if he had to straddle a little seat in front and it was really toasty, yeah, he wouldn't toast his nuts off essentially. Yeah. So, oh God help us. No, stop. Psychic crap is not allowed on my show. Sorry. They brought a psychic in on this. You know what she said? She said he was alive and is his kid, this famous psychic that was Princess Diana's psychic, and it was absolute garbage nonsense and wasted the family's time and was cruel and horrible. Psychics do not belong in criminal cases because they are con artists. Sorry, con artists, and they lead the police astray, and they never solve police cases. All of it's a lie, and they never help families. No, I'm very vicious against. I don't care if you want to be a psychic that sits and reaches the spirit world between two people and shows up there talking to the spirits. Fine, but leave families of missing children and murdered children alone. Just sickening. Let's see. Yeah, no abductor is going to nip over and get the shorts before taking off. Here's another thing. I'm not quite sure where the shorts are exactly. I have trouble seeing how the house was laid out. Supposedly the cars were in back of the house, so I don't know. It's a motorcycle in back of the house or the motorcycle in front of the house. A motorcycle can basically sit any place. The shorts near where the motorcycle would have been, or the shorts on the other side of the house, that would have been a problem. Would have been extra work. I don't know, and that unfortunately, but yeah, don't mention psychic stream. You want to do that in your private lives and waste your money, fine. If you want to make people think that you're reaching out to the spirit world and taking money off of people, well, that's kind of, you're just con artists. Sorry. Don't mention them to me. That's correct. Oh, that's an interesting point. If he didn't take Ben for a ride and just left, wouldn't you think Ben would be crying his eyes out? I don't know. I mean, he could be crying. It just, well, shucks. I don't know. It depends on the kid. Maybe he could have just, he's gone, and then just run back in the house and bothered somebody else. I don't know, but that's a good point. Would he have been upset? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Stephen not only went to hypnosis, he passed a lie detector test. Stephen didn't know if he was coming or going, or how they interrogated him. He was a young lad. This theory hurts the family. Okay. I've always find it interesting when you analyze evidence that you're not allowed to analyze the evidence because somebody says this is the way it is. Everything hurts the family. They don't have to watch the video. I'm not saying they should, but every when you're a family of a missing or murdered child, you should just, maybe, unless you really think that person has something to offer you, maybe you should stay away from all these channels. That's what I would recommend. This is an educational channel. I'm teaching people to look at evidence. And I was not aware of the lie detector test. That was not mentioned again in the book. So I don't know when it was taken. People can pass lie detector tests. They can. Again, it depends who's giving the test. Was it given? I don't know. And you don't know either. So you're quoting something that you don't know the actual truth about. So this is a theory that is based on evidence. Sorry that you don't like it, but it is a theory based on evidence. I've gone over what that evidence is. And unless somebody can prove to me, or they don't have to prove to me. If you're saying that I can't be right about this theory, I'm not saying the theory. I'm not saying the theory means that Stephen did take been on the this motorbike. I'm not saying it proves it. I'm saying that with all the evidence points to that's more likely to have happened than some other things. And if there's some proof that will then cross that theory off the list, Guy said, where was he? Is there evidence of witnesses elsewhere along the way? And where is that evidence? And I'm willing to listen to it. I'm willing to see it. I'm willing to do a second show and say, look, the top theory I had has been blown apart by A, B, C, and D. And now we're down to the excavator or the abduction. But I haven't got that proof at this point. All I have is what makes much more sense than that he was abducted or that he walked a half a mile into an excavation field in that short period of time, and that the parents didn't bother to look for him because they thought for sure he was with Stephen. That's all I'm saying. You cannot like it, but not here to hurt the family. But pretty much any time, hundreds of videos I've done to help people understand evidence and stuff. I'm sure some families haven't liked it a bit. And but I don't play. One thing I don't do that some storytellers do is they go with the thing that will make them most popular, not only with the wider audience, but also sometimes the family. That this will cause me less. This makes me a nicer person. If I say clearly, oh, it was just an accident on the excavator, it'll make me a nice person. Nobody will be mad at me. If I say Madeleine McCann was abducted, then I'm a nice person because I'm not being mean to the parents. You know how many times I've been told that I'm a horrible human being because I don't find that the evidence supports abduction with Madeleine McCann? Yeah, I've been brutalized over that. And let me tell you, a lot of professionals won't go there because they don't want to ruin their careers and become unpopular with the media, which I did. I became highly unpopular with the media. They wouldn't let me talk about Madeleine McCann at all because I wouldn't support the agenda, which was to say she was abducted. That was what was the thing that was happening. So I was cut off from all the media, and because I didn't want my theory out there. But, I would have been much more popular if I'd gone with the abduction theory, at least with the media. And some cases, West Memphis 3, I think they're guilty. I think the evidence proves they're guilty. And that is not a popular theory. So I've been, the stuff that's thrown at me, how dare you, those boys were railroaded and blah, 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 blah. And they were innocent teenagers, and don't you know this is the person who did it. You're a cruel and horrible human being. Okay. I'm looking at evidence and I'm saying what I say. I don't say that I have to be right, but I'm going to say what I think the evidence is leaning toward. And if I'm working with the police department, I can be, as I said, if I work with the police department on the inside, I can see everything. I can be far more absolute in my determination, saying, I really believe this is true because I have seen everything. From outside, I can say there's missing pieces. I've got a puzzle here with missing pieces. That's absolutely true. So I would like to have more so I could do a better job. Sometimes I've offered that to families. If you want me to step in and look at everything and you have access to it, I'm willing to do that. And then I'm willing to come back out and say, absolutely not this. My theory on this, that was my top theory, has been, I've now seen all this other evidence and can say, this theory doesn't hold water anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. I'm willing to do that because, I don't have this kind of pride that says I have to be 100% right, even if I have only 70% of the information. All I can do is examine evidence and help people understand how to analyze evidence. That's it. But if you don't like it, there's other channels. There's other channels and other human beings. How did he hang on? On a motorcycle? Yeah, that's not on the back. As I said, you put the little kid on the front, and then they put their little hands here, and then you hold them in. That's why they're always on the front if they're small. They have to be bigger so they can go on the back. And if you ever look at a family, you'll see sometimes family of four, they're in a row so they can consolidate. Maybe some people around the one that's going to fall off. Don't have much safety rules on the roads. Well, even if they do out in the countryside where you're going down dirt roads, there's not much rules on those anyway. So let's see. Oh, that's an interesting point. That's reasonable. Huh. Allison, I like this. Uncle may have called out. I think that's what you're writing there. Ben is coming with me as he left, but they didn't hear. They may have had a few beers or lunch and he would relax them. That's also possible. They could have said, I'm taking them, and they just didn't hear it. Maybe that could be. He claims later that he told him he couldn't go and go to Grandpa, but I don't know again whether if he did take him, he didn't want to admit that. So now he says that's what I said, that he couldn't go. Well, that's if I'd taken him and he fell off my motorbike and died, I'd probably say that too. I told him he couldn't go. But of course, he could have said you can't go and drove away, and somehow Ben then disappeared. I don't know, and the shorts. So, yeah. Let's see. If you're saying he stated he was feeling guilty because he left and didn't make sure Ben went back with the others. That's a little off. I'm sorry. That's a little weird to me. That's one of the reasons he's claiming that he feels guilty, because when he was there, Ben was running in and out of the house anyway, outside of the sight of other people. The family said, they heard him playing outside, making laughing and stuff. So there's no reason why Ben would feel guilty that he didn't make him go into the house. Because he was already outside of the house playing around. So I'm not sure. But again, he could feel guilty over just about anything. So even if he wasn't involved, yeah, he could feel guilty about that. He could feel guilty he didn't take him with him. He could feel guilty that maybe he drove away and Ben followed him and he didn't realize it, and Ben ran into the street. Could be. But I have a problem with this. That's the one that bothers the heck out of me. Has Pat said psychopath yet? No, except for now, just because I read that. No, not in this one. My other one that is that the one I'm putting up next week? Yeah, I was going to put it up today, but I decided to do this live, so it'll be up next week. That one, I haven't done that one yet. That's the one I didn't say that, but I clicked on the word over and over again. I'm known for that word, yes. Because of the guilt he could feel guilt for a million reasons. So could everybody, except for I think maybe Carrie had no reason to feel guilty. She wasn't even there. The grandparents could feel guilty, and Stephen could feel guilty. All three of them could feel guilty but then again, Stephen should feel less guilty than them because they told him to go home and he got on his bike and left. And if he did, he has no reason to feel guilty about anything because he was being instructed to leave. And it was his grandparents' job to pay attention to Ben at that point. So I don't see that he would feel guilty. I already messed up the photos. You came late. And the other thing to say, the thing about the very, very hot day. I mean, if I wasn't 100% sure he was with Stephen, I'd be terrified that he was out there someplace and he was going to get, he was going to get heat, he was going to get a heat stroke, heat exhaustion. He was just going to die of thirst out there. I'd be terrified of that. So I'd say I can't get past. Why didn't they go and check to make sure he was with Stephen? Why not? That is so weird to me. Yeah, that's one of those I have a very hard time explaining, except that they truly believed that's where he was. And there had to be a reason for that. If Stephen never took him before and would never do it without asking them, then they should have said he's not with Stephen. But that's not the way it was. I'm just, first of all, I'm not here to solve cases. I want to point that out. I've ever thought about reaching out to Carrie. She will never shy away from speaking the true facts of the case. Both the British police, Okay. No, first of all, I'm not solving cases. This channel is not about solving cases, nor is it about highlighting cases. Sometimes people say, "Oh, Pat, thank you so much for not letting this victim be forgotten." That's not why I do these shows. I'm not one of those shows. A lot of people will do shows. They do. A lot of people, YouTubers, do shows to make a crap load of money, but they always very sympathetic toward the victim and the family, and then they put up the thing at the end. You can contact, if you have a tip. Yeah, that makes them look good. But is that why they're doing the show? Probably not. They're doing a show because they're true crime people that make money off of it. That they put that up, fine. I never put that up. Why? Because this show is not about that. This show is an educational show to help people understand how to analyze evidence. And I don't want to pretend it's something else. I may have sympathy for victims. I may have sympathy for a family of victims, but I don't do the show to show my sympathy, and I'm not here to solve crimes. Occasionally, I have said, if some family wants me to look into it, on occasion, because it's something that I did that with, there's a few cases I've done that with, where I said, hey, family wants to contact me, they can. But I'm not reaching out to people to solve cases. I'm not doing that. Rarely do I even work on cases anymore because, first of all, you don't get paid. It takes a lot of work and money, and usually it doesn't go anywhere because if you're not on the inside with the police, you can't get the information, or they're just not going to respond. So I don't have hundreds and hundreds of hours to work for free. And very rarely do people want to pay a profiler. They may pay a private investigator for some reason, private detective. They've wasted a lot of money on private detectives so they can run around, and they'll run around forever because they're getting paid by the hour. But as a profiler, I'm very cautious about charging anybody for anything. But on rare occasions, if the family wants to contact me and maybe would like me to look into something, I'll talk to them. I've talked to a number of families, but I don't reach out because this is not a crime-solving channel. This is a teaching channel, so that maybe in the future, people solve crimes better. That's all, that they learn to analyze better. And so I stick with that, and I don't pretend to do something else. What is this? Seriously. Whoa, wait a minute. I got to find this. I can't find it where it is. Hold on a second. What have you done? Oh, my goodness. I'm trying to figure out where it is now. Where is the sticker? I'm trying to find out where it is. Okay, where are you, DD? Dogs discussion? Where did you go? Where is this at? I've got so many. Oh, here. Wow. Oh, my goodness. You're amazing. $100 so I can save the money for a ticket to Greece. Well, I'll say this: if I'm actually invited to come and investigate the case, I'll think about that. Otherwise, it'll support the channel. You're amazing. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I have never been to Greece. I will admit that. So, oh yes, I have been to Greece. I take that back. I was on a Mediterranean cruise, and we did, the stopover at the island that's blue and white. That one. So yes, I have been to Greece once, but only on the cruise thing. Thank you very much again. You're just amazing. Wow. Yeah, thank you. This channel does need support, and but sometimes I do put out that extra, if a family calls me up, I do spend the time talking to them. So, and I don't charge them for that. So, mostly I want them to understand things. Is there hope moving forward with the police department? Will a profiler help? Will a private investigator help? I like to talk to people about that because I don't like to see a lot of families be abused and used by people like psychics. But I want them to understand where things actually are. Sometimes, they believe something that's just simply not the way it is, and I'd like to clear that up for them. And on rare occasions, maybe I can help them in some way, but I have to believe there's some way for me to make a difference. So, yeah. But dogs just, oh, by the way, just to say, she's got a great channel. Go check it out. It's I'm losing my mind here, on YouTube, and also on TikTok. I forgot. She's got a great channel on dogs. They're so cute. All these different dog things. If you like dogs, you're going to enjoy that channel. You're off. No, dog. It's a different channel. Hi, dog. Hey, they look like our dog next door, which thank God they've kept inside so they haven't been barking through the show. This has been great, but I'm off to bed. Oh, good night. Let's see what other comments you have here before I sign off too. Also, we've been on here almost 3 hours now. Oh, no, you hear the dog. The dog is out. The dog is barking in the background now, so that's probably telling me we've been inside too long. Now we have to go to the bathroom. They're not my dogs. They're over here. They're my daughter's dogs. She got 4 of them. She's got 2 German Shepherds, a Cockapoo, and a Cane Corso puppy, which is now 95 pounds and is only less than a year old. So, Pat is a stone cold profiler. Beware, she's looking at a crime you committed. Well, there we go. I could talk to the Oracle of Delphi. Well, there's an idea. What? Really? No, they don't. What are you talking about? No. First of all, the few profilers that exist in the world that are FBI profilers work for the agency, and they get whatever they pay FBI agents. They don't. So, and as far as independent profilers go, most of them make no money off of profiling. They make money off of working for a university, writing books, doing television, but most television doesn't pay. So I don't know where you're getting that from, but I never made $500,000 profiling in my entire career. Yeah, no. Almost all of my profiling work has been pro bono. So, and I paid out of my own pocket to work with police departments. They won't pay outside profilers. So I pay for my own plane flight, my hotel, my rental car. All the time I gave was pro bono. I did that for many, many years till I realized that the problem is I was brought in on cases way too late. So they were so cold that even if I figured out who did it and presented the evidence to the police department, the ability to actually arrest and prosecute was long gone. And they might even say, yeah, we blew it, or we you're right, we never saw it that way. I think you got the right guy. And because I always, when all my profilers put the evidence out and I explain why I'm think this is a good direction to look at. I don't just do the profiler thing. A white guy lives with his mother, has a car, green car, and has a dog and a knife collection. And he doesn't get along with women and probably only has a high school education. That's garbage shit. What I'm doing here is profiling. I'm looking at the actual evidence and I'm explaining the evidence. And based on the evidence, this is the best avenue to pursue. Doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue the other 2 avenues. I'm just saying this is the best one. Now, when more evidence comes in, my profile would change. And that would be true of the police department too. Luckily, with the police department, I usually, if I'm working with them, have access to all the information. So I can go through everything from the crime scene photos to forensics, the statements people have made, all the interviews, all that crap. And I can go through everything. And then I put together a profile that says, this is why I think this, and this is why I think that, and this is why I think that, and this is evidence supports everything that I'm saying. A lot of FBI profiles, so you'll find, don't explain it. And it pisses me off because that's not real profiling. Profiling should be based on evidence, not statistics or some imaginary thing you come up with your head. Because if it's not there, it's not there. It should be based on evidence. And again, it only provides avenues of investigation, not proof. The proof comes in after you find the evidence to prove the person did it. That's all. So, but $500,000, yeah, that'd be nice. Oh, it's been pretty good here. Today, this is a day I've opened up to the public, and that's always very risky because I don't have a moderator. So, and I think everybody's been pretty cool. I haven't even found anybody to block yet. Just a couple people to yell at. Let's see. Huh. Yeah, that won't work either. That's a whole nother thing. Editors. Yeah. Let's say, let's see, what? Oh God, are you talking about psychics? I don't know, Caroline. If you're talking about psychics, I will discredit the hell out of them. There's not one shred of evidence they're useful. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but again, you're in the wrong place. If you think if you want me to accept psychics and criminal profile and doing any kind of analysis of crime, they're con artists, and I'll say that over and over and over again. Don't like it? You need to be on another channel, because I have no. Oh, you're talking about that average? Yeah, that's more right. I'll go with that. Yeah, $75, 75,000. No, I think they probably, if they're FBI, they'd make way more than that these days. But I don't know about other ones. So, um, sorry. And if by the way, if I jump to some conclusion because of the thing you put in there, I do apologize, because it's very hard to read all these tiny little comments that come through, and they're all out of order, and half the time you don't know exactly what the person was talking about. So take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, Peter Hyatt, no, it's definitely not rich. Peter Hyatt's wonderful. Love the guy. John Kelly, I don't know too much about his where he's getting his money from, but a lot of times people believe you're richer than you are. Believe me, because profiling is not a great. There's very few profilers in the world, and most of them do not make money. Most of them make their not from profiling; they make it from other stuff that they do, like television. So, yeah, I have problems with FBI profiling methodology. Doesn't mean I don't like some of the FBI profilers. I like Robert Ressler. Not a fan of John Douglas. He's not a fan of me. FBI profilers do not like me. I can tell you that. So, yeah, it's just the way. Was that a John Douglas impression? Okay. Oh no. Yeah. No, he's not a profiler. He's an analyst. He's a statement analyst. That's correct. He's not a profiler, but he does really nice. Statement analysis is part of profiling. One aspect of it. I do statement analysis, but I do it differently than Peter. Peter does very, very in-depth statement analysis based on all kinds of things, little words and things. I do what I call red flag statement analysis. I look for things that really stand out in the statements. That say, I say, wait a minute, something's off here. Like I always remember this one case. I think it's one of the statements this guy made. He said, I don't mind that my mom's is dead. I just don't like the way it went down. What? That's interesting. Well, the way it went down was he probably killed her. So that's what annoyed him. Not that she was dead, but just pissed him off that he had to get rid of her because she was about to call the police on him. So, that was a red flag. It's like, but actually the detectives who interviewed him missed the whole thing. He was never a suspect for them. And there were so many red flags, boom, 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 that I found in his statement. Peter probably would have shredded it into lots more things, but I look for the red flags. That's just me. And so that's what I call red flag statement analysis. I made that term up. So if you hear it anyplace else, they got it from me. Maybe they got it from me. Thank you, Lex. Save up a trip to Australia instead. Thank you, Lex. Hey, New Zealand Air now has seats. You suppose you can buy 3 seats and lay down on them. So I'll never fly coach again, but I really can't afford first class, but I'll never fly coach again because I'm so much pain from doing it. When I try to fly that way, I'm like, I'm done. So I have to find some way to lay down so I can relax and sleep. So now that I can do that, I might get to Australia. Thank you very much, Lex. Oh, look at this starry crystal night. I made it to a Pat Brown live. I feel like I snuck into a movie theater. No, you were given permission. The doors were open. Amazing as always. Keep doing what you do. Your show is as perfect as it gets, and a real truth seeker. Thank you. I don't know how perfect it is. I do not pretend to be perfect, and I'm sure I show that quite often that I'm not. But I do try to be honest. I do try to be truthful. I try not to be fake, and I don't fake anything. I don't do things just for clicks. I don't do things just to make people think I'm nice. And some people don't think I'm very nice. Let's see. I think I'm almost I kind of slid to the end of these because we're at 3 hours now. So come to Oregon. I've been to Oregon. I just didn't know you were there, Sarah. I'll come to visit you. I did go to Oregon during COVID. I went with my son. Was it during COVID or was it just after COVID? No, it's just after COVID. I flew out to California. He was in San Jose, and we took a nice trip to Napa, had wine, and then we went up, saw the redwoods, and then we went up to Oregon, and then we went to Washington. Yeah, so we went there, did the whole little thing. It was great. So wish I'd known you were there. I would have seen you. So anyway, oh, that's nice. I appreciate that. Well, that's what I want people here for. If people don't want to learn, it's really the wrong channel. I tell people this all the time. Some people are like, I don't like the way you go on about this and that. Why don't you just tell the story? I'm like, because I'm an analysis channel. I'm educating. Maybe you want to go over to the story channel. You're at the wrong channel. So I do love the fact, if that's why you're here, you learn something, then I'm doing what I like doing, and you're getting something out of it. So I appreciate that very, very much. Come to PA. Well, that's just I'm in Maryland. That's not so far. Oh, Lord. Okay. I'm going to thank all of you for being here. Anybody who's contributed that I ignored because I didn't see it pop up. It's not something I'm used to. Thank you. So I'm going to stop here at 3 hours. I'm going to text next door and say, let all the dogs out. So they can not pee in the house and do things. Oh, I've taught you loads. That is so cool. Well, that makes me happy. I think Robert, you came in late. You're going to have to watch the whole show over again. Why don't you run over? You got to watch the whole show. You've all been great. And this was a surprisingly good open to everyone. So I say I don't usually do that. So again, if you'd like to be at the lives, this is what they're like normally, but they are patron only. And then I put the show up a week after I finish the show. I put the shows out public, so everyone is available. I want everybody to be able to see the shows. Otherwise, it's pointless to me, because you don't want to hide. It's like educating and you hide half of the material. That doesn't make sense. So for those of you who are patrons, I think I'll be doing Wednesday hangout. That's when you all send all kinds of crap to me, and news items and what's happening with Hannah Kobayashi. Has she been found yet, or what's happened to her? These kind of questions, different cases, or what's happening to the Menendez brothers, so on and so forth. So that'll probably be on Wednesday, somewhere around 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock this week. And then the next Sunday, I'll be doing, of course, another case show. But I'm glad I finally did the Ben Needham thing, because I felt really bad about the fact it took me so long to get to it. But I sometimes just do things when I have enough information, or I get pushed enough, or I feel in the mood. So anyway, good night, everybody, and I will see some of you on Wednesday. And if you do join Patreon, I'll see you there too. So bye, everybody.